What is happening, my film friends? Dave the Film Junkie here. What's happening, guys? Oh, it is Friday. It's a weird week, obviously, because of the the holiday and everything like that. And you guys know that I've been home since Wednesday, I guess you could say. And it's just like, man, it does not feel like a normal week. I think it was like when I realized, oh yeah, tonight's vodka stream, right? And I'm just like totally thrown off today. Today was, it was not a lazy day, still a productive day, but you know what's going on. But what's happening, Music Man? What's up, buddy? What's going on? Got a drink? Oh, you better have a drink tonight, Danny. Good. Yo, Jade, what's up? Fear Jason, what's up, sir? Yes, Mr. Bennett. It's Junkee time. Junkee time. We got Neil. What's up, bud? How's it going? Eric, what's up? The alcohol sign. It's like, I mean, you think so, Scott? Well, there you go. I think, hey, if you give that approval, if you give that, yeah, I love that. I love that. It's a perfect sign. When I saw it on Amazon, I was like, I gotta have it. Gotta have it. What's going on, Jimmy? What's up? My Thanksgiving was pretty decent, guys. We'll talk about it in a little bit after I say hi to you guys. What's going on, Churro Ninja? Want to know if you still keep in touch with Amanda. You talk about my friend Amanda, right? We haven't talked in a bit. Like I said, she just upped and moved to Arizona, and that was it. So I haven't really talked to her since. So hopefully she's doing well over there. I mean, she's not in California anymore. I mean, come on. Shit. But you never know. She might stop by. She always pops in sometimes, so she might be there. I think that was the last time I've actually talked to her is through the live chat. What's going on, Gustavo? Going on, Wolf? I'm a goofy go. Yeah, you got the Jim Beam tonight. Good for you, bud. I still got the vodka. What's up? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely had a nice Thanksgiving. This is yeah. What's going on, Amar? I'm doing pretty good, sir. Yo, Zay. John, what's up? Nice to see ya. And we got Lee here. Yeah, it's Giftly. What? It's Giftly? Hey there, Dave. It's Giftly. Ah, okay. It's the guy who makes all the gifts. It puts my face on a bunch of gifts, man. Well, I appreciate that. That is quite a fucking coat you have on in your avatar there. What's going on, Will? How's it going, buddy? What's up, Leo? There he is, Mr. Jose. Thanksgiving, yeah. We'll be talking about some Thanksgiving and stuff like that. Happy, yeah, peeps, yeah. You guys don't really, I don't think you guys celebrated up there, do you? Why are you saying, Nathan? How are you? You're like a villain. I see you rubbing your chin how are you? What's going on, Jay? You're watching 1917? Good for you. Great film. Great film. Deserved the best picture. Deserved all the award recognition that it got last year. Such a fantastic movie. It got best picture, right? I can't even remember. What's going on, Carlos? How you doing? Anyways, yeah, Twerksgiving. Yeah, you guys are crazy. Anyways, guys, yeah, thank you for clicking in. Thank you for clicking into the Vodka stream. Hopefully you guys are digging the new setup for the Vodka stream. It's a Vodka stream lounge. That's what it is. That's what I'm basing it on. Saying it's like a lounge. Got some pops, of course, propped up on the table here. But I mean, yeah, I think it's turning out pretty good. Oh yeah, Parasite got best picture. That's right. 1917 won a bunch of other stuff though too, right? I always forget about that. Yeah, Parasite, which that was deserving too, because Parasite, blew my mind as well. That was a great flick as well. Yeah. So, but anyways, yeah. Hopefully you're digging the new setup. Got all my stuff. Figured I might as well just show it all off, all the various pictures, and of course my shelf with all the various stuff on there. Make sure you guys, if you guys haven't yet, get your copy of The Cut by Mr. Justin. Mr. Midside himself, of course, who's been on here many times. Of course, I promoted it. I'm almost done with it. I'm on the last part because he divides it up in 3 different parts. And I'm about to tackle that. Hopefully I'll have it done by this weekend, so then I can leave a review on his Amazon, and all will be fantastic. 1970 only got 3 wins. Why did I think it like got way more? I think it's just because I love that movie so much. So yeah, cinematography, VFX, and sound mixing. Of course, it was going to get all that because cinematography. I mean, come on, it's Jesus Christ. You can't defeat that cinematography. But anyways, so yeah. Make sure you're doing all that. Make sure you got all the links down below. We got, of course, the shirts. You got the shirts down below. We got the Patreon. If you guys want to join the Film Junkee Patreon, I'll be taking, of course, questions underneath the post that I posted not too long ago, about 20 minutes ago. And then, of course, we got a video question, too, from a fellow patron that we'll read to. But if you want to join the Film Junkee Patreon and help support the pirate ship, or the Bat Cave, whatever you want to call it, do so. I surely appreciate it, Every little bit counts right there. And like I said to you guys, I'm like, I'm always like, hey, I'm thankful for you guys. Always thankful. That's what I said on the Wednesday Film Junkee Live, the Thanksgiving Eve, that I'm thankful for you guys. The support, all the stuff. I mean, I've been at this for many years, and it's just amazing how the roller coaster that it goes. It really is amazing. And, sometimes how many times have I thought, I should just stop doing this? There's been many times where I don't know how frequent. It's not very frequent, but it's pretty frequent when sometimes I just go, what am I doing? I should just stop. I should stop doing this. It's not going anywhere. Who wants to listen to me, huh? Who wants to listen to me when I sip vodka and just talk nonsense into a microphone? But then, when I see the comments and I see the feedback from everything, and you guys seem to be digging everything that's going on, and I appreciate it, guys. So cheers to you. Hopefully, you guys had a good Thanksgiving, well, I mean, obviously, you international people probably didn't. It's an American holiday, but cheers anyways. I'm thankful for every one of you. And my Thanksgiving was good. It was good. I went to my mom's house, and my brother and nephew were there, and we chilled. We watched some football, and we watched football, and it sucked though because there's supposed to be 3 football games, but apparently the teams that were going to be playing the late game got exposed to COVID. So yeah, so that got postponed. I think they postponed it to Tuesday. They were going to postpone it till Sunday, but then they postponed it to Tuesday, and it's like, what the hell? Oh, yeah, and by the way, guys, look at that. Wearing the Vodka Stream shirt. Love it. I actually went to the store to buy because I needed to restock on my vodka, and I wore this, and I was, like, proud. I was like, yeah, that's right. I'm wearing my face on my chest, and I'm buying a bottle of vodka. What do you got to say to that? I don't think anybody noticed. Nobody really noticed. I don't think anybody noticed when I was there, but I did have a jacket on, so it was like partially covered because, it's a little chilly now, thank God, in California. So, yeah, Washington won. That was a good game. Good for Alex Smith, man. That guy bouncing back like he did. Yes, my fucking quarterback got COVID. I got the message yesterday. Fucking Lamar Jackson got COVID. So I might have to put Carson Wentz in. Or I might have to get another backup quarterback. Thank you, Jay. Cheers, brother. Appreciate it, man. I know you've been a long watcher, and I appreciate it, buddy. Appreciate the donation, but anyways, guys, yeah. So I went to my mom's house. We did all that. We had a nice little spread. It was very delicious. We had anytime you have 2 types of potatoes, always a good sign. Always a good sign for a good meal when you have 2 types of potatoes. My brother bought his special garlic potatoes that he makes, and then my mom mashed up some red potatoes, which are absolutely delicious, and she wanted to add a vegetable, like a green bean or a corn. And we're like, fuck that. We don't need that. Who needs a vegetable? I mean, we're eating nothing but fucking, we're carbo loading here. Who the hell needs a vegetable? And we're drinking champagne. That's what we were doing. We were drinking champagne and mimosas. So it was a good old time. And then afterwards, I went to a friend's who was having a little get together, small, of course, because of the way things are right now. And hung out there for a few hours and then made it home. And I watched Lethal Weapon last night because now is the time to start watching Christmas movies. Like I told you guys, I don't start the whole Christmas stuff watching movies or decorations or anything. I'm one of those that let's get through Thanksgiving first, and then we could start celebrating Christmas. And I put on, yes, Lethal Weapon is very much also, like Die Hard, a Christmas movie, okay? I'm just saying. It is. There's a lot of Christmas talk in that movie. A lot of people saying Merry Christmas, a lot of Christmas talk within that movie, okay? So I don't care what anybody says. It is a Christmas. I mean, when the movie opens, opening credits, it's singing like it's a Christmas song. I forgot what song it is. Totally blanking on what song it is. Was it Jingle Bells? No, or Jingle Bell Rock? Is it Jingle Bell Rock? I don't know. I'm totally blanking on what song it is, but I know it's a Christmas song that shows up, that plays with the opening credits. So anybody who says that it's not a Christmas, oh yes. Scott, have you not watched Kiss Kiss Bang Bang? I'm gonna grill you once you show up tonight. I'm gonna grill you if you have not seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because that also Christmas movie. My favorite Shane Black movie. I love that movie. Robert Downey Jr., Val Kilmer have like some of the best chemistry ever, and it's just absolutely fantastic. I'm just saying. Is Shazam a Christmas movie? Yes, it is. Okay. I'm just saying, Scott. Just making sure. I was just preparing to grill you very hard when you showed up on the panel later. But also, guys, I don't know if you guys noticed. Obviously, I did some work today with you guys know I have a partnership now, right, with MFN Broadcast News, and I don't know if you guys saw what they dropped today, but it was pretty crazy. They had a new exclusive breaking news story that showed up today. So, I'm going to go ahead and play it for you because that was the agreement, is to, play it during the live stream. So here we go. Hello, everybody. We have a breaking exclusive news story from the Movie Fake News Broadcast Network. I'm Bill Richmond.
And I'm Tom Monahan.
We have just found out that none other than Zack Snyder himself will be taking over Joss Whedon's position for the HBO show The Nevers, effective immediately.
This seems like the obvious choice, Bill.
Warner Media came to this conclusion after Whedon tried to inject a situation where a male character falls into a female character's breast area for the 27th time in the writer's room.
That does happen, though, Bill.
Keep it to yourself, Tom. Warner Media also felt that Snyder was the perfect choice for the female-centric show, given that Snyder has never received a negative creepy story from his previous female cast members.
Sometimes I watch Sucker Punch when I'm having one of those lonely nights, Bill.
Sources also say that Ray Fisher will be given a recurring role just to rub salt onto the wound.
I have to take medication for consuming too much salt, Bill.
This has been a breaking exclusive news story from the Movie Fake News Broadcast Network. I'm Bill Richmond.
And I'm Tom Monahan.
Bringing all breaking stories you should not take seriously. There you go, guys. Another breaking exclusive from the MFN Broadcast Network. There you go. Bill Richmond, Tom Monahan. Cheers to those guys, right? I'm just saying, they're always got those exclusives. And no, I appreciate you guys digging the new segment there. I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be like I'm not gonna do it like every day. But I mean, anytime that there's like some kind of anytime there's some kind of crazy news that's out there that I can like make a fake news thing about, I'm just gonna do something like that. It's actually a lot of fun when I'm recording that. I mean, like I said, I think my neighbors think I'm insane probably now, more insane than I actually was before, because when you do that Bill Richmond voice and I have to get really high, it's funny. Yeah, when I record those. So a lot of stuff. And I actually have another thing that I might introduce too during the live streams. That's also an old thing that I used to do that I've been wanting to bring back, that I think you guys will get a kick out of if you guys haven't seen them. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm working on all that. And but it's just a lot of fun just to change it up and do all that stuff. I think Tom Monahan has I see. That's what I love about those two characters. You got the very energetic Bill Richmond, who's just like, he's the professional. He's banging it out. But then you got the old veteran who's just like, I don't give a shit. I'm Tom Monahan. It's just, he's laid back and he's just gonna, he's gonna assist. He's gonna assist in the news. So, that's the dynamic between Bill and Tom there. So good stuff. Good stuff. Dave, were you inspired by Yeah. I mean, I'm inspired by a lot of things. SNL, various other. I mean, I've seen like YouTube channels like do like commercials and breaking news stuff. And I thought, I mean, like I said, I did a thing called redundant movie news, like years ago with those same characters, and then I was just like, well, redundant movie news. Let's change it to movie fake news and just have just bullshit stories. I know some people I already saw some comments going like, dude, you're just this is just gonna be for clickbait, man. I mean, this was cool at first, but I already had a couple people after two stories, they're like, all right, man, it's old. You're just doing this for clicks now because it's very clickbaity. I'm like, now, I mean, obviously in the title and even in the thumbnail, I put the logo movie fake news, or, I'm trying to like show people that this is not real. I even say it's not real. But I mean, I can understand the gripes. People might think it's like too fake news. But I mean, that's what it's all about. It's a bit. And that's what it's, basically, I just thought, well, you guys seem to be enjoying it, so I'm like posting it all over the place. I posted on Twitter, posted on Instagram, posted on everything. So it's just a lot of fun to do those. It's a lot of fun to like take something and just like flip it all around and everything. So it's a lot of fun. What's going on there, Jeffrey? What's up, buddy? But but I appreciate you guys getting a kick out of that. But all right, I think it's about time I bring in my my featured guest here, who made his first appearance, of course, when I had Snyder on here, when I was trying to figure out, grouping people with all that stuff. And then he stayed, of course, after Snyder left, or he came back, and that was cool. But we'll get him in here and talk to him for a little bit and, have some good conversations and everything. So, man, okay. So link is sent. So we'll see when he pops in here. But yeah, guys. But like I said, I might bring this other little thing that I've been wanting to bring back as well to the channel. And we'll see what happens. See what happens with that. I don't know. It's just trying to work everything out, trying to implement it. And then, of course, I've been working on other things too. I've been working on a lot of things. Like I have like another debate, from me back and forth video that I've been trying to do, and then of course I have an editorial. I'm going to start doing more editorial type videos as well, because I've been wanting to go back doing those types of videos, and so I think now's the time to start bringing those back. Join the stream. All right. So we got that. All right, let me make sure I got the right link here. Okay. All right, guys, without further ado, welcome my guest, Mr. Andrew Dyce. What is up, sir?
What is up? I'm depressed to hear that how often you're thinking about giving up this live streaming.
I know.
I thought you were going to say, I think about it all the time. I think about it every time I start. Think about it every time I finish.
Not that frequent, but maybe like once a week. Maybe like once a week. I'm like, what am I doing, man? I'm like tired. I'm like, I just want to like take a nap. And yeah, I mean, you know what it is like when it comes to doing all this, and especially lately, like when I do like a bunch of live streaming and then try to keep up with the videos too. And I get people that ask like, what advice can you give me for, starting a YouTube channel? And I'm just like, just put on the camera, turn on the microphone and see what happens. It's trial and error. There's so many times where I'm like, this isn't working. This sucks. We're always our own worst critics. That's just the way it is. So, and I'm sure, you've probably felt similar stuff too. It's like, is certain stuff working? Is it not? I mean, it's just something that happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like the big rule for people who write on the internet is don't read the comments.
Oh, geez.
And so the idea of doing basically like writing while people are commenting on what I'm writing seems like an absolute nightmare to me.
All right.
That's even when there's like movies coming out and like TV shows and stuff to talk about, and not just like, rumors and things like that, where you have to do a lot of the legwork. My hat is off to you. I could not do it.
Oh, dude. I mean, like, especially when something comes out and it's like, oh man, and I'm at work. I'm literally at work, and then all of a sudden I'm getting blown up, just like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about it? And I'm just like, shit. And it's trying to keep up with all of it. Yeah, it can be a struggle. I kind of envy you when you can actually just sit and actually write something and think it out, and not just go, turn on, not just go, I got to write it real quick and just get it out there.
Yeah, I have to get live.
Mm-hmm. Get live, man. I know. When this whole pandemic started, I'm like, you know what? I haven't hoarded myself out enough. Let me just do a Film Junkee live thing, and I'm just going to start live streaming like crazy. But I appreciate you joining me, sir.
I'm honored.
It's been a long time coming. I mean, obviously I had you on for the Snyder one because I felt like, I wanted some people to come in and ask like different kind of questions. And when I was trying to figure out, I was like, how am I going to group it all? I was like, well, it'd be perfect because obviously you and Steven write for Screen Rant, and then of course do BVS by the minute, which we will talk about in a little bit. I'll bring in Steven.
Okay.
We'll talk about that because I mean, I want to know the basis of how you guys came up with that, because I think it's absolutely brilliant when you came up with the BVS by the minute, to be honest. Like I would actually love to do that with like every movie out there, just break it down by the minute, but we'll talk about that. And but when it comes to Screen Rant, when did you start with Screen Rant?
Man, and I had just looked this up like a couple months ago because someone had mentioned, they said, like I wrote my 100th article or something like that, and I thought, man, I don't even know when mine was, and I think it's past a decade now.
Wow. Yeah.
Total, starting with Game Rant, writing about video games, and then kind of putting in my time, paying my dues there in the mines, and then eventually moved over to movies, and then the rest, as they say, is history. But yeah, a decade.
And you're considered an editor, so basically articles kind of get run by you. I think Steven is kind of like an editor too, right? When it comes to that? Yeah. When
Steven is an editor and then a whiz of social media.
Yes, the way that oh my God, there's been so many things where like in DMs and stuff like that with Steven where he just breaks down analysis, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, dude. How do you figure this out? I mean, that's what I love about Steven is like when we need numbers broken down, analytics and everything, he is the guy to turn to.
Yeah.
And, I don't even know how long Steven's been on Screen Rant. It's probably been, maybe not as long as you, but.
No, I doubt it. Well, I mean, I was like, I think of the current editors, more than half were from the time that I started. So that was at the time when we were, a staff of like probably still 20 or 30 people. And now it's upwards of 70. I think it's a pretty big operation that. And now I went from writing about video games to movies and TV. And now I am officially the editor of the comics section on Screen Rant. So if you are reading anything comic related, ended up being a silver lining because that was the one industry that kind of didn't shut down as much.
Yeah.
It shut down for, I think, a couple months, 1 or 2 months, but that is, that's a different beast.
Totally different.
Entirely. Yeah. Also, don't read the comments still. Don't do that anywhere. It doesn't matter what section, especially when it comes to comic books.
Yeah, I know. Like there's sometimes where, being a YouTuber, you have to, I'll read like, I don't like go back to like a video that, it's been out for 5 days when there's like an active debate that'll be happening underneath. I mean, there's been times where it's been a war zone underneath my comment section, but I'll check back and look at, when I post a video, I'll look back, a half hour, mainly the first day, especially when it's like something new, like a new thing that I did. I kind of want to see the response and see how people are responding to it. But other than that, I'm just kind of like, especially when you're doing the live stream thing, it's like I'm doing everything like live, which is crazy thing.
You ever go back and watch any of your older videos?
Oh, sometimes I have. I mean, there's I think even recently, even today, and I should have brought it up. Somebody actually posted a clip from a very old video of me right before Man of Steel came out. Wow. I had long, like Tom Cruise looking hair, which was weird.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was like when I first started doing green screen, and I wasn't really taking the channel too seriously, but I was like, just kind of fiddling around with it. And when I implemented the whole green screen thing, I was like, well, that's cool. I'll just put a bunch of movie posters behind me.
Yep.
I'm the film junkie. Haha, get it? And it was just kind of funny seeing that. I'm wearing like an Anchorman shirt that looks like Ron Burgundy's. Like,
You could take a screenshot of that and put it in a museum as like YouTube movie blogger.
It was great. I was like, man, I couldn't believe that. Somebody just like, sniffed that out. And it's weird to watch all that, especially when I get comments like, look at how young you look. I'm like, damn, have I aged that much? What are you here? That's the thing about it, is you're captured in like a time capsule in time, which is very interesting. Very interesting.
It's not always good to go back.
Always not, but it happens. But I wanted to ask too, is like doing Screen Rant editor and everything, is that your full-time job or is it just part?
That is my full-time gig. Yes, that is I won't count the hours per week because people know that it can be weird if you work online.
Yeah.
But it's very cool. It's gone from being kind of the point guy on comics to having a full team of like editors behind me that kick ass, and a lot of people, a ton of the writers that have come on and staff writers. It's really grown, and it's wicked. I mean, that's the best part of it's probably like because you don't really get a community in the same way writing for a site that's bigger like that. For a smaller blog where the commenters and stuff, that's possible, but when it becomes a bigger site, then you're really only going to get that from the people that you're working with and talking to, and then kind of releasing it into the ether, right? And just trusting that people are going to read it, and then you get the numbers that say they did. But yeah, so that's been definitely during the last year, I guess now we're coming up on, it has been good for mental health to have that many people just checking in every day.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, you build a little team, you build some a community. I mean, Steven and I have actually talked about how, because he used to do like technology stuff, and I actually was working on a website called AndroidSpin.com before I really just like delve into deep into my own channel. Where, I was part of a website, part of a little crew, little team and everything. And we, wrote articles and we did the whole thing where it's like, you had a whole group thing of like, who wants to take on this story? Who wants to take on that story? And then of course you have access to which, all the analytics, like the stats and everything of what's happening. I mean, it is pretty interesting. I mean, I do miss it. I do miss that, having that little group and seeing it grow, but then it grew and then it just fell flat. Sadly.
I feel like that happens a lot of the time. Yeah. But
it was difficult to get, like, as much as we try to do different things, it just seemed like we couldn't get that, we just couldn't, it was so saturated, especially when it came to the Android community. And we're like this little blog, and you got all these big blogs that are just getting all the top, they're getting early access to the devices, early access to everything. And then we're just kind of like keeping up going, hey, did you see what this has? Oh my God, look at how many gigs of RAM it has. Oh my shit, But I mean, you really got to be on top of it. But I mean, it seems like Screen Rant, though, it's just, I mean, it's taken off pretty much in the past few years for sure.
I would like all to me.
It's all
because of me. Yep.
I know. I knew it.
Yep.
I knew it. I mean, and when I see you, I'm like, obviously that's the guy who's done this. Who's done this 100%.
People are like the new Ben Affleck Batman. Nope, I'm telling you, like Strange Adventures. That's where the traffic is.
That's where it is.
That's what people want.
By the way, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking vodka with 7-Up because
there you
I
go.
am 19 years old.
Nice.
And I am super white. So that is that. I'm Canadian white. That's how.
That's right. You're up in Winnipeg, right?
I am. Yes.
Yeah. How's the weather? Is it is it below 0 degrees yet, or
it is floating around there right now? I think that would be 0 degrees Celsius.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's right. You guys do that whole thing. We us Americans, we're all about the Fahrenheit.
Yeah. It is. Let's just say, like, it's not icy yet.
Okay.
So that's good.
I have a buddy who met his wife who in Vegas who lived in Canada. She's Canadian, so they would go back and forth. And he told me that like some of the times that he went up there during winter, and it was like insane, like literally to the point where they tell people, do not ever run outside because you'll be inhaling all this cold air and your lungs could freeze. I'm like, no thanks. And I saw Just Friends too. Just friends, that was like an indication of how cold it gets up there too.
Yeah.
So like it's too insane. I mean, I'm from California. I mean, when it dips, like I said, when it dips below 60 degrees, we all become, we all start layering up,
Okay, but here's the best thing is what I've realized from first going to LA for E3 when I was doing game coverage and then like New York Comic Con and stuff like that. When the entire city doesn't freeze solid for 3 months, the smells that build up are next level. Like anyone who asked me, like Los Angeles, yes, there are some cool places. I'm going to downtown LA and it is a toilet.
Oof. Oh yeah. Oh,
I mean, and that's just, everyone knows that, but if you're coming from somewhere where here, 3-4 months of the year it's below zero, so nothing can really last that is that bad. But man, that follows you home too.
Oh, it gets worse every year too. Like LA is a shithole. It's funny when I watch movies, like I said, I just watched Lethal Weapon last night. I mean, and when they show like the aerial shots and just nice little areas, and it's like some people just get this idea of like, oh yeah, LA, look at that, it's so beautiful, quaint, it's a utopia. But then when you actually go there, no, it's not that at all.
That was I went to a screening of Aquaman actually they held it at the Warner Brothers lot, and I got to go, and I was fortunate enough to take my brother with me. And he had not been to Los Angeles. This is like my older brother, and I'm thinking like, I'm going to show you something. Like this usually goes the other way. But we went to Hollywood Boulevard, and it's like, because that's like tourist central Main Street. And then we went like 1 block south, and it was just, he was walking along, was like, I don't feel that safe here right now. And just like this is not, and I could see and like hear the kind of like, wow, the wonder starts to drain of like, oh no, like this is actually, it's just a city. I mean, like more than anything, right? Like the downtown areas are going to be not ideal. Like I never got jumped or anything, and I was an idiot of like 24 years old walking around downtown LA at like 2 a.m. Trying to get to some party. With like looking at probably like as Canadian as I possibly could.
What's this about?
Yeah, I had yet to lose my like podcasting Canadian veneer.
Yeah,
but yeah, someday you'll get out,
right? No, but like, I mean, I've always wanted to like. I've never been to Canada. I always wanted to like, visit, the various big cities up there, just to kind of compare, see how Vancouver, Toronto, whatever, even Winnipeg, And Winnipeg's kind of small though. It's not really like a metropolis.
It's like 1 million people, so it's like a small Chicago.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's not
similar
as big like the others.
When that's the one place in the States that I've gone to is Chicago, where it felt like, oh, this is actually like people don't just tell you to fuck off. Like when you step in front of them, like this is really nice. We don't both say sorry in Chicago. It's just me. But that's the only difference. But yeah, come in the summer. That's the only advice I
go in the winter. I would never go in the winter. I mean, like I said, I've been warned about how that is. But so when it comes to okay, so we got Screen Rant, we got all the BBS stuff. I mean, obviously, like when working for a website, obviously you're going to have certain fandoms that don't like certain things that are written about their movies and stuff like that. And it's always funny because when it came to the Snyder fandom, And there'll be many times where they'll be like, fucking Screen Rant doing their shit again. And it's just like, come on, guys. It's various different writers, different opinions. They're going to have different opinions. Relax. But then, I've always backed up when it comes to like, if you want to like a pretty positive Snyder Cut stuff, look for Dyce or look for Colbert. Look for them writing their stuff. So you guys were kind of like the two that would really go heavy on the positive when it came to the Snyder Cut and everything Snyder.
Yeah, it was like to what you said there first. I'm always another one of my editors, Hannah, had as her pinned tweet for the longest time. It was just comments she copied and pasted of like Screen Rant, DC biased, Screen Rant hates everything Marvel. Yeah, they would always say, or I was always of the mindset of, if there's a movie that came out and somebody loved it and someone hated it, they should both get to write it. Yeah. Like they should, because it's the way it's how the feeling is going to be.
Yeah.
But a lot of people like, I guess they want there to be a site stance, which is like a bit more tribal, like kind of that takes me back to like blog days of, you're not welcome on these boards. But no, I mean, I remember going to see Man of Steel. It was during E3, so it was the entire Game Rant crew. We went and got tickets because it was opening weekend. I believe someone can check the calendar, but I believe it was. I got the Superman 3D glasses.
Ooh,
and we went, and I thought, well, sure, like it looks like a Christopher Nolan movie. I know Zack Snyder from Dawn of the Dead and 300 was amazing, so this makes total sense. And then the movie ended, and Ben Kendrick, my fellow editor, who's still a Screen Rant, said, "What did you think?" And I remember I didn't know what to say. I said, "I don't know. I need to think about that," because that was so not at all what I was expecting from the Marvel movies were dominating.
Yeah.
And Man of Steel, I remember from the opening shot, it was his mother giving birth, and I was sitting there thinking, like, "Oh, I was not prepared for what this is at all, because this is what a hell of a way to open a Superman movie, and this is going to be something from that point on, it was just like, this is not Marvel." And I dug it and needed time to process it, and then that kind of kept up. There's some weird revisionist history, because it seems like people got militant about Snyder, where you had to like hate Man of Steel, or you do the weird, like, I didn't mind Man of Steel, but the reaction was kind of like mine. It felt like, it was like, yeah, there's something, this is just very different. And then by the time Batman v Superman came out, anyone who's looking to hear positive opinions, it was before the well was poisoned by, critics and bloggers who, I'm not personally attacking anybody. It just became a game of, you have to one up to even get read. So you have to get more extreme with the takes that you're taking. But Batman v Superman, the episode of, I'm trying to remember if it was the Screen Rant. No, it would have been Total Geek All at that point. The podcast with me and my fellow editors, where we were, Ben came into it and said, I thought I was going to be the most positive, and I think I'm the most negative. It was Rob Keyes, who was not super crazy about Man of Steel, and he knew that his was the opinion that we were waiting for, and he said, like, I had a smile on my face the whole time. Like, this was such a cool thing.
Yeah.
And all of us voice a positive, it's not perfect. There's some stuff here and there, but man, the conversation that took over, if you would have told me that we were on like the top 2% of people talking about that movie, who our main reaction was, that was cool. Yeah. That was definitely not the worst film I've ever seen, or some offense to me as a comic book fan. So then I guess we became like de facto defenders, even though it was just calling out the stuff that we kept being like, you're not really talking about this thing. Like, this was a cool part of it, and I'm going to talk about that. And then people were like, yes.
Yeah. You guys weren't actively shitting on it. There was a lot of people that were just out of the out of the door. It was just like, fuck this movie. We don't want,
You went in hating it. You had issues with Man of Steel. Yeah. Shocker. People that went into the theater expecting to dislike it, disliked it, and disliked it very passionately when everyone disliked it.
Yeah, it's weird. And then that grew with BVS. It was like, you can totally tell. It's like, oh, I already know it's gonna shit on it. I mean, I can already tell. But it was what was nice too is like, when he had like John Schnepp, may he rest in peace. He did not like the BVS theatrical, but then when he went and saw the ultimate cut, also, he had like a flip. I mean, he was like, I remember just watching that going, look at that. I mean, he almost like did a 180, pretty much did a 180 flip and just praised the movie just for that half an hour that was missing, that filled in all these gaps, that just made it feel like a full movie. And you love to see it. But then, of course, there were still the sticklers, and, by no means are like, we always just going to say like, oh, it's an absolutely perfect movie. There's nothing I can complain. I mean, there's some stuff that I could still pick out of, even though I love it. I love BVS. I love Man of Steel, but there'll be little gripes, little things that I might be like, I don't know about that, but
name them.
Oh, I know.
Right now, comments get ready.
Come on, Dyce. I'm not going to get canceled quite yet. Get thrown out of the Snyder community. But when it came to the Snyder cut stuff, when did you become aware of it? When you saw Justice League, let me ask like your first reaction to Justice League. Let's talk about that first.
I've never felt worse watching a movie. I think from the moment that the heist, the guy pulls out a gun and shoots the security guard, and it goes into like Beetlejuice music, and I was watching, and I'm watching like a Bane shooting up the stock exchange level of like these people are getting beat up, and these kids this is like bad. This isn't fun. This is I don't have a problem with what it is. It's just, why is this music here? Like, this is
the music the score did not fit at all.
No,
as much as I was excited to hear the Batman theme again, and even like the classic Superman scene or theme, it did not fit. It did not fit at all. It was weird,
and not better or worse. Like Steven always says, the worst question is it good or is it bad? It's the music was not bad.
Yeah.
Right. And like the thing that was happening in the movie was not bad, but when you mix them together, it was, and then I started like noticing when it was like, oh, everyone looks the way they should.
Yeah.
I bet this is probably an original shot. And I think the word that I used when we reviewed that movie on the podcast was I was devastated. And then the movie ended, and it was the Justice League. I mean, when it got to the stuff of, I still have not seen the movie again.
Yeah,
since the theater. When it got to, I mean, no, and it was so obvious to me. I think only Fantastic Four before that was a movie where it was like, this is
Fan Four Stick. Yeah,
how did anybody think that they would get away with this? Which was mainly the thing, but yeah, Justice League. I walked out of that theater feeling terrible for what they had done to Zack Snyder, and time has changed things, but it was knowing that it was primarily Jeff Johns and Joss Whedon who were like kind of writing heroes of mine when it came to this kind of stuff. I was not angry. I was just disappointed.
Yeah, I'm not. It's like that. Zac Efron.
I'm not angry with you.
I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed when he's got that.
Maybe a little angrier. Maybe a little angry. I was a little angry.
There's a little anger. I mean, I've said it many times on here before. It's like, I fought to get on to see a press screening on the Warner Brothers lot, and I mean, being so excited to be there, seeing it like 4 days ahead, and being, in a Warner Brothers, screening with other critics. And I'm like, whoa, this is great. And just totally jazzed and hyped. And then when that first scene just popped up, my smile the gravity just pulled it down.
I don't want to think about it. Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, I couldn't believe immediately all the rumors that I was fighting against, like for the last 6, 7,
It won't
8.
be that hard.
Yes. I was like, no, there's no way that they're going to try to reshoot it all. Oh, the mustache thing. Well, that's so ridiculous. And then it was just,
it'll be filling shots here and there.
yes.
You won't notice.
It all was like, it's not going to be, it'll still be Snyder's movie. And then it was just like, oh boy. Oh. And I just remember walking out feeling like, a gut punch. And then at the same time, I remember, hyping it up, saying, hey, I'm going to go see this movie, guys. And everybody was just anxiously waiting for my first reaction. And I was like, what am I going to say? I don't want to give like a super negative, like, oh my God. And I kind of wish I did, and just said, but I kind of like tiptoed. And if you watch my first reaction, I'm like, some people were confused by it. They were like, wait, did you like it or did you not? And I'm like,
that was a lot of the Twitter stuff. I remember when that social media embargo lifted, it was people were like, are you saying this like sarcastically? Or a lot of the people that went to that screening were positive. I remember that.
Yeah, it was a very odd thing. I remember that week.
It was, it's not easy. Like I went and saw an early screening of Wonder Woman, and the movie ended, and I thought, like, I like that. I have no idea if people are going to say that it's fantastic, if people will say that it's cheesy or melodramatic, or her standing up and having the reveal walking across no man's land, if they'll say that that's like trying too hard, or it's not slick, or it's the greatest thing ever. Like I just left that and was like, cool, I enjoyed that. But at this point, with the way people are talking about Batman v Superman, I have absolutely no idea if this is going to be the worst movie that's ever been reviewed, and then it came out and it was like, no, it's flawless.
Yeah,
sure.
Something percent. You're like, oh shit, yeah. I know it's weird when it comes to these movies. I mean, it's almost like it's like almost like seeing election results. Like, what's going on in this state? When you're waiting, like, oh, the embargo is lifting at 2 p.m. Oh my god, and everybody's like anxiously waiting on how that's going to go. And I remember, oh man, I remember waiting. I recorded my my review, and then I was like anxiously waiting to just post it when the embargo lifted. And, even my review, I tried to be as positive as possible. But then like 2 days later, you could watch a video and I fucking unleashed. This is not a Zack Snyder movie. I was like, I just went all out. And
you want to review the movie, right? Like you want to, especially because at that time, the truth of what had happened was unclear.
Yes.
So it was kind of like, maybe this is maybe like Joss overstepped, or there was a balance that could have been struck that wasn't, or like I see what he was trying to do, and maybe some of this is what Zach wanted to do but didn't get to do it himself.
I remember that Saturday, the weekend that it came out. I saw it with friends and I think my brother and nephew also, because they all wanted to see it, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch this with different kind of perspective. I'm not going to watch it like this is like this Zack Snyder film that I thought. I'm going to watch it and just take it and see. And then when I did my second reaction to it, I said, just go in pretending it's a DCU animated feature wrapped in flesh. I'm like, it kind of just, to me, it almost felt like, because it's a short movie, it's not long. And I'm like, all right, let me just pretend like it's not that. It's just like this one-off little, maybe this DCU animated flick that's wrapped in flesh. And I actually enjoyed it, but I can't watch it. And I've tried to watch it like at home, and I basically almost wanted to puke in my soup. I don't even know if I had to, but it
was, I remember the moment where, oh gosh, this name just flew right out of my head. I love him. He's the goon at the beginning that Ben Affleck.
Oh yeah, I can't remember. He was in Mindhunters, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah, no.
You talk about the actor or the character?
Yeah. And where Batman hears some message, or he's saying something to Alfred, and the guy's like, "A scout? You mean like of an alien army?" And I was like, "That's pretty like spot on leap for a goon to make, overhearing one side of a phone call." And then when I stopped, like in the next scene after, I was thinking, wait, those three, that parademon blew up and made 3 squares, and that has become an actual clue.
Yeah.
That,
It really was like a video game. Like, oh, you kill this boss or whatever the heck in this stage,
just drop something.
It leaves like this clue, and it was giving Arkham vibes. Like when he looked at his wrist thing, and it was like, oh yeah, kind of like what happened in Arkham. And I almost was like appreciating that scene. I mean, I do dig like when you first see him and he's perched up on the gargoyle. That looks pretty cool. But then when you see him do like the backflip thing, it looks a little wonky. And then when he says Alfred in front of the goon, it's like, what are you doing there, Bruce?
Yeah,
you just announced you're talking to Alfred in front of somebody. That's a little wrong, but yeah, it was so many things. But when it came to the announcement of the Snyder Cut, I mean, how did you feel when that happened, May 20th? What were you doing exactly? I'm just kidding. No.
Yeah, where was I?
Yeah.
Well, I had I was fortunate enough to host a podcast with Steven. Yeah. So I was getting, I won't say like updates from the very beginning, but I've never been as surprised as the general public. So I've always had like time to process it. So it's been hard to kind of see it as everyone else does, because I'm not, it's not like we were talking after class or anything, but it was just, Steven knew how invested I was in it. And it was like, at some point, his version of the movie is going to come out. That's just like a matter of time. And then as the time went by and it was kind of received worse and worse, and the box office for the DCU got lower and like the excitement got lower, it was, what do they have to lose at this point? And now it became pride more than anything else. So then he said, it's going to happen. And watching the live stream, and it was like, it's still kind of surreal because it happens so slowly that it's hard.
Yeah.
Because it's now just a thing that's coming out, and it's like, with the theatrical cut, like, what? That's that awful green screen? That's nothing. Don't worry about it.
I know. It's going to be weird how, like, and I've met people and I've talked to, and I've seen people even on my Twitter just go like, should I watch the theatrical version? I haven't watched it. I'm just like, no, just wait for what's coming out. There's no reason to. I mean, unless you just want to, get drunk with some friends and have a drinking game about how, the cheesy one-liners or whatever the hell that's in there, go for it. If you could spot like the reshoots, go for it. Have a drink.
Yeah. That. Insurance commercial green screen of Momoa. I don't know. I still will never understand what that motion.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's like, is that what Aquaman does? Like, just to launch himself, he has to like do this crazy. Yeah. Man, there's so many awful things on that. But now that it's all coming out, I mean, and other things that have come out, and especially with the stuff that happened with like Justice Con, and now that Snyder's made the rounds. I mean, what are your thoughts on all of how Snyder is approaching promoting all of this? I mean, he seems to be kind of changing the game a little bit. I mean, especially since you're somebody who's obviously works, full time for a website, and it almost seems like Snyder's like, you know what, I'm only going to trust certain things now, and I'm going to go with the fans on this one, as opposed to just like going directly to like the head of a website and doing like some kind of junket or whatever the hell.
Yeah, I obviously understand it. I think that during the Justice League and the Justice League set visit, especially, I do feel like the Snyders, like both of them, I think it was Deborah who said, turns out people don't like seeing their heroes deconstructed.
Yeah.
Which was like, oh, so you guys know completely, you understand why people don't like it. It's not a case of, some misunderstood filmmaker or anything. It was just, we were doing a thing very intentionally, and it's hard to know if things would be different if Marvel had not slowed down its film release. I think that is there's a vacuum right now, so that all of this is given room to breathe and be different. I also feel like, Venom, Deadpool, like movies that attest to people are going to want something different eventually.
Yep.
They're not just going to want the same thing. So I think that in good faith, Zach had tried to make the case for this is something different. No one heard him. I think was the big thing is that it became, it just went without saying in the conversation. So it was like, well, this movie it was Patrick Wilson. We have that clip, right? And we tweeted out where he said, this movie made $750 million and a lot of people really love it. So to say, oh yeah, that was really bad, everyone hated it, it's just like, that's what are we even talking about?
Yeah.
And that did become the kind of introduction to every article from an outlet, because that's the job. Like, I also know that the job is you're writing about things that people want to read.
Yes.
And if you are writing an article that is honestly for a long time something being bad, something being disappointing, Wonder Woman is a mess, that became the thing that would get people's attention, because it does.
Yeah.
It's more scandalous.
It is. Yeah, a lot of people are like, and then when they like, oh yeah, and then when they see the theatrical, yeah, it wasn't a mess. How about that? It's like, but how did you know that maybe at one point, maybe it was? I don't know. There's a lot of things too that I've learned myself, because when it came to, I mean, like I said, when I watched, that first scene of Justice League, and then all the debunking that I did prior to that, and I think even Steven can attest to that too, is like, we try to defend, but then we realize it's like, we can't be fans when it comes to this. We really got to vet a lot of things. And I mean, that's the thing that you have to do too, running a website, is the fact that, yes, you could be a fan, but you also got to be, you got to have some journalistic integrity as well. You can't just like 100% just try to debunk something without fact checking or vetting sources or anything like that. And it's like, you really got to take that approach and not just go full force as a fan.
Yeah. I think that was probably why Steven kept me in the loop, because there were so many things that he couldn't speak about publicly because he hadn't vetted them yet. At the same time, I was doing more of the editorial, looking back and kind of, the I don't know, I can't remember what it was called. It was like the symbolism contest on Vero that was calling out your favorite Easter egg and all of that. And breaking down the movie and calling these things out. And I wrote up an article that said the fans are doing what the critics didn't. Like, they are having the conversation about what is actually in this movie and what is going on. And the director is interacting with them because the critics weren't interested in that.
Yeah.
So that was something that then a lot of people read that and said that, I was fighting for them. And I had kind of been posting like positive stuff the whole time because I really enjoyed the movie and I enjoyed what it was doing. But then, if you're Zack Snyder, if you don't have to, I think the working at a major site, we cover it the same, and it doesn't matter where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So he's forward looking and like, look, at this point, am I going to give an interview to someone who I don't think loves the films I make and is a fanboy or fangirl, but someone who even understands what I'm trying to do?
Yeah.
And is willing to give me that, is willing to allow that, like, well, this isn't like Endgame because you're not trying to make it an Avengers movie. And that became the norm in so many outlets. How are you going to compete with Marvel? And that, like, I applaud his patience, because I don't know how I could stand that if I was in his shoes. But I'm going to go speak to it'd be the same thing as speaking to a site that is maybe no longer with us. A lot of them did not make it. That, like, snark was their brand and being an asshole to the establishment was their thing. Well, if you're someone that they hate, I don't want to talk to you. I'm not weak or I'm not scared or anything. It's just you're not respecting me and the work I do. So why should I try to put money in your pocket, really, by doing this? That was always the biggest thing for me. And Steven, I know, will say the same thing. It was what we were always saying is, it's not a critic's job to tell you if something is good or bad. I I got an English degree from university. That's not what criticism is. Like, that is not. And I know that not because of an ego, because I had to write papers about that. And if I could have just said if something was good or bad, then I would have. But it is about understanding what an artist is trying to do and then discussing how successful they are at doing it and where it is less successful. If I walk into a modern art museum and say, this sucks, this looks stupid,
which a lot of people do. Yeah.
I'm not a critic. I'm not an art critic. I'm not. Yeah. I have no business doing that because I don't know what the artist was getting at. I don't know what they were trying to do. The idea is that I would know that, and then I would pass that on to people who don't.
Yeah.
And that never happened. And now it seems like Zach is being proactive with that and saying, I'm going to talk about this movie and engage in marketing and, you know, social discussion about it with people who preemptively are on my wavelength.
Yeah.
And that is, it's scandalous. That is like world changing, but that's probably going to be how it happens, you know.
Yeah,
more and more.
I kind of wonder like how if like other directors are looking what he's doing and going, maybe this is what I should do when my movie comes out. I'm wondering like because a lot of directors don't do that. I think the closest director that maybe interacts social media like is James Gunn. So I'm kind of wondering when the Suicide Squad comes out, how is he going to approach it when it comes to promoting that movie? Is he going to go the Snyder method? Because, you know, him and Snyder are friends. They, you know, of course, worked on Dawn of the Dead together. They've praised each other and everything like that. So I'm wondering if he'll take that approach. But we are going to bring your co-host of BVS. He's coming in. There he is. What's up, Steven?
What's up?
What's up? We got, you know, Dyce is just refilling his drink. He saw you were backstage, so he's like, all right, better refill the drink.
Oh, we got a squatch.
Yeah.
We got a squatch on the line.
We got a squat. What did Snyder say? He's like, hey, it looks like a Yeti.
Yeah, it looks like a Yeti.
Yeah. Yeah. Snyder was feeling pretty good at that moment too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were sucking down that bourbon like pretty good. So that's
Dice and I were in a chat kind of watching. And we're like, oh, he's starting to make quitting noises, and then like he'd pour another drink. And I'm like, I think that's a good sign because he's not going to leave before he finishes it. But also,
man, I was trying so hard to like, but it was just I kept on asking stuff. There's so many things, and there were even things that like weren't on my 2 pages worth of notes that I had beforehand that it's just like I wanted to know about, and I was just trying to get stuff that I never heard him talk about, and then. But then I was hoping to squeeze everybody in. But I mean, luckily, I mean, you know, Justin and Swenson, and then of course you guys got in.
Dave. I did not even realize like we were talking for an hour. That felt like 20 minutes. I have no ill will towards you talking because, like, no offense, you're nobody to me. You're nobody. You mean nothing. If you were Zack Snyder,
all right,
get the fuck out.
Sorry, I had to do that drop. My new drop. No. I get it.
Well, mainly because you and Zach are just good conversationalists. So it's a fun talk to have. I will say, having talked to people who are keeping a clock going in their head, it's the worst thing in the world. So the opposite is the best. If you can imagine. This is one thing that Steven can empathize with during the whole junket marketing thing. Imagine sitting across from Zack Snyder and having an opportunity to ask him one question. And then when he starts talking and you're thinking like, yeah, we're gonna have a conversation. And someone is standing behind you going,
yeah, doing this shit. Yeah. Fuck that, man.
I can't listen. You end up sucking. So the fact that you are in your lounge, you're comfortable.
Yeah,
he's entering your space. It made for a fantastic interview.
Yeah, that's what I was really hoping for. And I remember like it was funny too because I try to set it up like this. If I hadn't set it up like this. I had everything going, and then I set it up like this, and I'm like, it's not working. I'm not comfortable. I need to be comfortable. So then I just went back to my desk where I knew I was comfortable and just put everything back. And I was like nervous, and I mean, you can even ask Steven, and we were like trying to figure out like, wait, the donation link. Oh shit, how are we gonna do donations? And then I had Amanda going like, hey, can you set up the link? And then she was emailing like the AFSP people. I mean, it was like down to the wire. And then I was like just super like nervous. And then once I just went live,
how we roll.
Yeah, it's usually how it is. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to go smoothly, but once it just happened, it was just like, okay, he's here. Let's just fucking talk. Let's just talk. That's all it is. You know, obviously I'm not going to get to everything, but there's certain things that maybe I really want to get to, and then we'll see what happens. And then, you know, it turned out pretty good. I try to give him like a good, you know, I wanted to incorporate fan questions and other people, you know, and keep a tally of the donations, just to do something different as opposed to just coming on another live stream and just talking, you know. Nothing, I mean, there's nothing against like when he did that with like League of Mayhem. I'm glad he did that. I mean, he did that and showed off a lot of good shit, talked about a lot of good shit, but I wanted to actually be like really structured as much as possible. And I think I was like shooting really high. I was like, man, he could do it for 2 hours, right? 2 hours. I'm like, wait a minute. That was pushing a little too much, but he gave us an hour and a half after telling me he was going to give me an hour. And I was like, all right, that just shows you how great the guy is. But let's talk about some BVS by the minute. I want to know how this idea came up. I mean, we've talked about it many times on the on the Vodka stream. We brought it up, and then of course, you know, we do our shameless promos where we, you know, take a drink when we bring that up, of course. But I've always wanted to know, like, because when the idea when it came out, I was like, wow, that's actually a pretty cool idea. Like, I even thought like I would like to do that with just movies that I love, just break it down a minute at a time. And it's funny too, because when you look at the run times of each one, I mean, they vary. Sometimes there's ones where you guys can go off on like there's something that happens within that minute that just you can just talk about, you know. And but then there's sometimes where it's like, oh, it's just something that nothing like too big is like happening right here. But yeah, who came up with the idea? Which one of you came up with the idea?
The idea itself, I know for sure came from Andrew.
Okay,
there we go. That was very generous of you to allow me the opportunity. But I feel like it came from like just being like fellow sympathizers that I kind of assumed there was a point where like after a million DMs from me where he's like, can you believe that people don't understand this part of BVS? He's like, you know, maybe we should just do a podcast about this.
Yep.
Maybe.
I think and the funny thing is I think I said it would be Batman v Superman by the minute, and it would be 1 minute, nothing like you know, nothing crazy. It would just be there's at least like 15 or 20 minutes to talk about stuff that is just in a single minute. It's like even the smaller ones, it totally was. It was the countless times where I think if there's a Hall of Fame message sent between us, it would be copying and pasting somebody who said, "This isn't Batman. This is like none of the stuff Batman is supposed to do. Like he's becoming a villain." And then we would copy that and be like, "It's almost like the movie is about him is about that." You know, like, wow, wouldn't it be crazy? Or people would say they should just make a movie with this, and we would say like that is this movie. Like this person should be.
Like Batman would never do that. It's like, you know who else said that? Alfred.
Like, yeah, right there when he dropped the paper. Yeah. And you know, it's like I mean, and the well, not the last one he posted today, but minute I think it was 80. I think you're at 80 when Superman and Batman actually confront each other. I actually really love that breakdown because of what happens before that with the whole Batmobile craziness, that it's just like you got a Batmobile that's just tearing through everything and just fucking up everything, and then all of a sudden Superman shows up, bink, and just bounces off him. And the way that you guys broke that down, I thought that was great. And compliments to you, Steven, because I remember like I think for I don't know how many times when I watched BVS, and I was like always going, does Superman realize that Batman was chasing bad guys and he just let the bad guys get away? And you actually,
it's almost like that's what the movie's about.
It's almost like Superman is making mistakes as well as Batman. You know, it's like, yes, there it is.
You did see it, because he wasn't looking.
Yes, exactly. And I love the analogy going back to the glasses falling down, like, oh, he's not seeing and blah blah blah. But yeah, compliments to you, Steve.
Yeah. I think that there are no shortage. The weird thing is that we didn't like try it out
Yeah.
or
Well, 'cause
record
you
some.
proposed it, and I was like, I can't say no because like someone has to do this, but man, that's a commitment. And so
this
it
is
went
like,
back
it
and
really
forth.
is. We kind
It
of
went back and
know that
forth
it's a stretch.
Yeah, exactly. And there was like a few
A lot of
there's like
minutes.
6 months of like, we should really do that, and being like, yeah, but man, once we start, we can't
There's no
stop.
turning
Like,
back. Yep. There's no turning back.
and then what I think it was the beginning of 2019. One of us was like, you know what? I made a New Year's resolution that we have to actually do this now. So
But I got
But at
that
the
Twitter
same time, I can almost think of like, I mean, I'm looking at this. You got 182 episodes you can have. That is a lot of content. I mean, so I mean, it must have been like thinking about like, oh yeah, we got to really commit to this. But at the same time, I mean, when you're trying to like always like, hey, we got to have content. I mean, just to see that you'll like, well, we have guaranteed 182 episodes. That's got to be kind of nice, right?
I think the thing that sealed it, because we basically like set up the podcast and then we're okay, now let's record the first episode, not knowing, we probably gave it a watch for the first few minutes of, I could probably, there's actually a lot of stuff in these first minutes, like just kind of observing where they end that I could talk about. But for all the ways a movie could start with this premise, like those first minutes are so, you're thinking, oh, like, yeah, it's not how I would open it because it's like the funeral. So, okay. And then it goes into the flashback sequence. And it's like, Steven, you said, like, this is similar to Watchmen, the opening where, oh, man, I could talk about every one of these little choices for 10 minutes each. And then I think the excitement from that, like, built up enough of a fire to actually get us started and doing it and committing to it.
Well, and it was funny with those first two. I'd be fascinated to go back and listen to hear how we commented on it at the time, because in the first few episodes, it's right off the bat. It's like, hey, that's really cool. This first episode ends with a gunshot or whatever. And then like the second episode, it was like, oh, that's cool. That ends with him like landing on the ground at the bottom of the bat cave. And then we're like, oh man, the Superman pops right up at the minute. And they must have, this first part of the movie just has to be structured so tightly. That's what he's like, look, we can't waste time here. We have to get the story out. So they like, structured it out really, really specifically.
Yeah.
And then like, it just kept on happening. Not every single minute, but 8% of the time, it's like end of the minute, scene, end of the minute, explosion, end of the minute. There's like a mic drop line.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you asked Snyder about that, and then you got your answer. So now, and you even mentioned it on, I think I was on minute 8 or whatever the heck, where you were like, now we don't have to keep on talking about it. Like it almost seemed like it is going minute by minute, and he answered it for you. I mean, that's why I wanted to bring on people to ask these questions that just don't get answered. People are always going like, hey, what's Martian Manhunter look like? Who's your Green Lantern? It's always that stuff. And I'm like, no, let's get some good questions. And the fact that you asked that one and he said like, yeah, that he's very, very much structured to like, let's build it by that. And it's just fucking beautiful.
Steven started to describe it and that he was just like, and I was like, what? I like freaking out. And Steven was like looking down here and saying it, and I was like, Steven, he's not. He's saying yes. Like, how can I even process that this is so insane? And then we obviously didn't ask him specifically, but the Nairobi one is okay, sure. Like I build it from scene to scene, and then I like pace it, 30 seconds, 60 seconds at a time. What else are you going to pace it by? Sure. But the fact that like when we were watching it, it's the gunshot that starts the minute and then it ends with the doors open and we're like, the job's done. Every single part of that is over. That's not a coincidence. But that would have to be, I feel like that's the kind of thing that clued me into, this has to be for your own pleasure. To put that in there. And I mean, some of the minutes we've talked about, Steven enjoys the movements and the segments and sequences and sections.
And Dyce enjoys editing me talk about them.
Yeah, just putting in like fun, like snoring sounds or crickets. But no, I mean, it has been, I think I started it to try to at least get my feelings about it out. And you know, that these are my thoughts on why this is good, why this is smart, why this is worthwhile to do this. And unexpectedly, I ended up loving it even more.
Yeah.
Looking at it that closely, like that's a very, I think that is something that is only true for me with the absolute best of films and TV, that the closer you look at it, the more you fall in love with the details. Jurassic Park.
Yeah. I'm telling you. I mean, like I mean, I'm telling you. I mean, there's so many.
I do watch other movies.
Yes, I know. Yeah, we all do, and that's why I said, I'm like, this concept, this idea of breaking it down by the minute. I mean, like, let's do that for all the Star Wars. Let's do that for Jurassic. Let's do that for Jaws. Let's do that for everything, man.
We're just mind blown that we didn't, like, how easy would it have been for us to say, like, you know what, minute by minute is a little bit aggressive. Let's just do like scene by scene. That, you know, that's a much more reasonable undertaking. It's not that drastic of a difference.
Like, lasted.
Nah.
Yeah.
And then it would have been great still, but like we would have never noticed the structure in the same way, because we wouldn't have, because we would have adhered to the way that it's watched, as opposed to like, and like we said on a recent episode that I think it's probably one that's not out yet, but preview spoiler, that like this is not the way to watch the movie. Like, we don't talk about it this way because this is the way you're not supposed to watch this movie minute by minute. But in the same way that like Zack Snyder like constructs these characters, in order to understand what this movie is or how Zack Snyder made it, you have to deconstruct the movie itself, which means you have to know how he made it in order to unmake it, to kind of lay the parts out in front of you to inspect the individual elements. And if you do it scene by scene, you can do that. But as we've noticed by doing it minute by minute, we're like, hey, look, this minute accomplishes this theme. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end to this minute. And then every once in a while, there's a minute that's in there where it's like, oh, this one is just like wrap all this stuff up before moving to the next section. It's like a grab bag. But the majority of them are like their own short films and can work like almost independently. And it's fascinating. And I think one of the hardest parts, or the parts that we were maybe not hardest now, but when we first started, that we were concerned about, was it was so tempting, and we were also scared of homogenizing every single theme, and so that every single minute is just us talking about the same thing, like complaining about Batman.
Started out with those questions, right? Like, I'm going to come up with a question for every minute, and then we just ended up not needing that.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, how do we differentiate? Because we didn't want it to get to the point where it's like 182 of the exact same episode, because we just talk about the same stuff. And then it got to, like, we couldn't, well, we do get about to that, and we'll look forward to future minutes sometimes that ends up, like, our discussion ends up, Dyce is really, really great about editing it down to keep it focused on, like, the minute at hand instead of mining future content. But even so, there's so much stuff in there where it's like, by the time we even get to the point where it's like I thought we'd reference the Martha moment way too often. And that was kind of a rule we had to impose, where it's like, we can't, let's approach this as if we can't we'll reference future knowledge if it's relevant, like if it actually enhances the discussion, but we're avoiding saying like, well, the Martha moment's going to happen, and that's foreshadowed here because of X, Y, Z, because like I said, that's how you turn every single minute into the same thing. But we almost don't even have time to do that, because by the time we get to that level of analysis, we've already got like 30 minutes worth of did you see the way that, you know, like the little stuff we noticed, like his eyes being completely black in the nightmare.
Yeah, that was
Bruce Wayne is gone, there's only Batman left. Or Dyce picks up stuff all the time, like he noticed Batman hitting the brakes before hitting Superman, which I had never noticed before.
Yeah, it was
or Easter eggs.
Yeah, throughout that whole scene, he's just going through everything. He sees Superman, and like you guys have said, he flinches.
Close up. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one that flinches when he was not flinching at all through that whole fucking scene. He was just being Batman, and then all of a sudden it's just like, seeing Superman standing there, and then it's just time slows down. There was really no other I guess there was a little slow motion in other spots, but it was just like that moment right there. That's when Batman was like, "Oh fuck!" and then he slams the brakes and it was kind of like a symbolic thing. Which and
then the way he reacts to it, I think that really shines a light on the fact that his reaction after the fact is very much like, I can't believe I flinched. I'm not like, this was my moment. That was the moment I was building up to for that, and then I flinched at the last second. I think
I think if we did, or when we do / if we do Man of Steel by the minute, that I would think is more it's more like ethereal. Like there's a lot more Americana like charged imagery in that. Chris Terrio hadn't shown up yet, I guess is probably the thing there.
Yeah. But I was actually going to ask. You got 4 hour plus, Snyder cut going, and you guys are pretty much set for breaking that one down by the minute, huh?
Yeah.
Like I said, as much as it sounds like wow, but you guys have content for fucking a couple of years. It seems you guys have content.
Yeah.
It's something, when I think about stuff like drying up, especially during the pandemic, I'm like, what the fuck am I going to talk about on my channel? What am I going to do? That's why I'm always like, but you guys have content for a while, a long time. So think about it.
There's also the thing that I did not think about was this far into the movie, I'm married and am going to have my first kid.
Oh, that's right. Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. It was very hard. So thank you.
Yeah, I know. It's difficult on your end. I know. I get it.
Yeah. But like I was already crying every time Jonathan Kent shows up.
Oh boy.
You know what you're having?
I cried in the theater.
Yeah. But do you know what you're having? You having a girl or boy?
I'm having a girl, so it will be a little different.
Slightly different, but still.
Yes.
Yeah.
But just the it's every single time, and I feel like it would probably be the moment that even people who are not, diehard fans, the "I miss you, son," where when it breaks from like a memory to something else. Like that, I was in the theater and was like, I'm not fighting the emotion in it. And even that is making me realize like you are different every time you watch a movie.
Oh yeah.
Like you're that some of these moments in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman hit me differently because of where I am in my life. Again, I brought up Jurassic Park earlier. I think there's no better example than the day I rewatched Jurassic Park and realized I now put myself into Grant's role and not the kids. That's probably like
when we first watched it, we were kids, so it's like where we are there now that
he's
we're
a cool grown-up.
Yeah,
and then you go back and it's the kids, and you're like, oh, those kids are cute. Like he has to keep them safe, and then it's like, whoa,
what he does to keep them safe, and they're not even his kids. That's what's crazy about it. I know. Yeah, see. All right,
and you like Jimmy in the same way, and you're laughing. It's just I look at Laura Dern differently than when I was a little kid, and it's I think probably the first time I saw that I didn't realize they were a couple. Probably right, like they don't kiss.
Yeah,
so
they don't act like they almost act like brother and sister a little bit.
Yeah.
Besides when like she goes like, "Hey, do you want to, or he goes, "You want to have one of those?" And she's all like, well, yeah, I don't want that kid, but a couple, that's you don't really notice that they are a couple,
No, and when Malcolm, I distinctly remember when Malcolm says, "Are you two?"
Yeah,
and he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Are you, or are you just saying that because you don't like Malcolm?" But that's like the version of my brain that loved Jurassic Park didn't know that Grant and Ellie were thinking about having children.
Yeah.
That like, what else don't I know? Because the first time I saw Batman v Superman, I was expecting it to be like a World's Finest movie.
Yeah.
And it ended up being this like painting.
Yeah.
You know, this so can you paint an opera? Yes, you can, and it's Batman v Superman. So now I can't even think of it is a good reminder to go back and rewatch movies that you love.
Yes, especially if you haven't revisited them, even like, I mean, you can look at Back to the Future. I mean, I watched Back to the Future too. I mean, there's just stuff that now when you're an adult and the stuff that you've gone through, you guys you're going to be a parent, Andrew, Steven is a parent. I mean, you just look at things differently than you did. And now we got some more hoodlums coming in here. We got Mr. Scott McClellan, we got Mr. Garza, and we got Mr. Chris Wong Swenson. What's up, motherfuckers? Nice shirt, Chris. You got your new shirts, right?
Yeah. My wife actually designed all these.
Nice.
She tried to replicate the symbols. So it says PPF. I did it wrong way, but PPF, not Wonder Woman.
Okay, man.
PP shirt. It's another PP shirt.
It's another PP shirt. I know. I like you say like that. Well, welcome, guys. Scott, look what came today.
I saw. I wanted to check. I had your tracking number on the post office app. I was like, okay, when's it showing up?
Showed up today, and I'm glad. You know what? I didn't realize it was a magnet. I'm like, sweet.
Yes.
It's right up on the refrigerator right there. I was like, awesome. And then of course,
did you throw it? Did you throw it? Did you throw it?
I might have flinged it at my couch earlier. I will say, that's just me. Of course, that's going to happen. But then I was like, cool, and I put it right on my refrigerator. But of course, I had to show that I got it. So thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Nice shirt too. You got a Titan shirt going on.
Yeah,
New Teen Titans.
New Teen Titans. Yeah, that cover.
It's
yep.
rad.
Awesome. And then of course, Mr. Garza, what's up, buddy? You got to turn up your mic. Your mic's a little low. Just saying. It's a little low, maybe.
Sorry. Is that better?
Yeah, you got to talk.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, it's a good BVS cut.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Damn.
And and Chris, man, I mean, cheers. I know you lost your grandma recently, man, and I
appreciate it.
condolences and everything. I know that's rough, but especially around the holidays. But cheers, man.
Thank you.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thanks for your kind thoughts on your videos. I watched it the other.
I know. It's like, I think on a Junkee Live, somebody brought it up, and I was like, oh man, like right during it, and I was like, oof, that sucks, man. But it's part of life, sadly. I mean, I even brought up, a tradition I used to have with my grandma, who's been passed away for about 12 years now. And it's just, when it came to, that's why I'm like a stickler about, what? Don't start the Christmas stuff till after we have turkey, please. Come on, let's do Thanksgiving first. I think it's just because, like I said, we'd have Thanksgiving at her house, and then I'd stay the night. We'd decorate the tree that night, and then the next morning we'd decorate everything else. And it was just like, but it was always Thanksgiving first, and then we go into Christmas. But I mean, Jesus Christ, it's going to be, after 4th of July, it's going to end up, people, put up Christmas decorations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like it, man. But anyways, guys, thank you for joining us per usual. What's up?
Well, it's kind of funny. I was listening to Andrew, and I had to say that it was interesting listening to your perspective as you're expecting your daughter, because Man of Steel actually came out my first Father's Day weekend.
Oh,
There it is.
So
That hit hard.
Oh, you better believe it, because Liam was 2 months old. I actually have a picture of him in a Superman onesie as my dad, and I saw it with my dad. I've seen all these movies with my dad. So I went to go see it with my dad, and being a dad for the first time, and then watching that movie going, okay, that whole, you are my son.
Oh, dude, I mean,
That sending him away.
I even brought it up to Snyder when I talked to him. I was like, that right there, just no matter, I don't know how many times I've seen it. I mean, that one always good when he just embraces him and he goes, "You are my son." Every time I get a fucking lump, just Yeah, right there. It's there. Yeah.
And I think it was like 2 years ago. Some people were asking like, when was the last time you watched Man of Steel and BVS like back to back? And it was actually like Father's Day 2 years ago. Like that was what I asked my wife. Like, honey, can you take the kids? Can I just like sit here? And I literally just binged them like back to back. And
you know what's crazy about that? Like Avery, like my daughter, I don't know if I Miyagi'd her like in the best way possible, but yeah, dude, I did. I don't know what the fuck I did, but dude, that girl literally almost every weekend, she'll always be like, "Hey, let's watch Man of Steel and BVS." Like, dude, I've watched Man of Steel and BVS back to back. I don't know how many fucking times, and it's to the point where I'm like, "Hey, dude, can we, maybe let's broaden it. Let's watch a little bit of some other stuff." And it's interesting to kind of hear her perspective because now she just turned 13, so she understands all of that adult, those layers that you see in Man of Steel that normally a kid's watching that they're not, they don't understand it specifically. Whenever Paul Kent's like, maybe like when he said that line, she understood it. She was like, well, yeah, I mean, what can he do? Like, could he'd be the only survivor? So what would happen if?
Yeah. Meanwhile, like 24-year-old bloggers are like, he said maybe. Yeah. Look at this guy. He's like, he wants to get killed. It's like,
but it was interesting that my daughter, who's a kid, was also like, dude, everybody would be asking him why is he the only survivor. So instead of having to deal with that, he at least took care of it where everybody survived, and he wasn't necessarily special, but he was. And I'm like, dude,
that's like if I asked my dad, like, if there was something about me like that and something like the tornado happened where it was like, would you die to keep that safe? Yeah. I feel like my dad would be like 100% I would.
Yeah.
That's not even even if it was going to give you a better chance at being safe, it would be like, oh, that's what being a parent is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at it that way. Kind of like even the Martha, where in BVS she says, "You don't owe this world a thing." I was like, I would totally say that.
Yeah.
And my wife says, I would totally say that. You don't owe this world.
Dude.
It's like,
specifically, if my kid was like getting attacked and shit, I'd be like,
screw him.
Yeah, fuck this. And that's what I posed to Avery. I was like, so imagine you're Superman when he's talking to the priest in Man of Steel. And he's like, I don't know if the only issue is I don't know if the people of Earth can be trusted either. And I asked her that. I said, you living on this Earth for at that point in time, she was like, I mean, this is like, I asked her this question, which was like 11 or 12. I said, being on this Earth for as long as you have, not as long as I have, and definitely not as long as 33 years that he has. Knowing the people of Earth, would you willingly sacrifice yourself for Earth? She was like, absolutely not. I go, yeah, exactly. And that's what Superman's willing to do. He just, sure. You know what?
He's not even from our Earth.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean? And so she was like, that's crazy to think of. And when you actually put it in the perspective of going, dude, Clark, when you really think of it in the base of levels, human beings, we as a society and just as a culture, we're horrible. Like, I would not sacrifice myself for the Earth. I'm sorry. I'm that selfish.
Newsflash.
But yeah, right? I know. It's mind-breaking. But
Exclusivo!
In other news, water. Wet.
Yeah. It's just weird that, when you see Henry or when you see Superman contemplating that, critics are like, why would he be doing that? Why would he? It's like, do you not see the Jesus imagery right behind him? There's a fucking one, obviously.
Yeah. Well, then you point that out, and then they're like, oh, yeah, it's so obvious.
Heavy-handed.
I remember Mark Waid, who was not a fan of Man of Steel as a whole, who I was in a very tough spot because Superman Birthright is kind of like the comic that made me fall back in love with Superman. And he said in his long blog post, he's like, here's all the things I didn't like. This isn't who Superman is to me. This isn't what he'd do. And then he got to the tornado scene and was like, look, I'm not a fan of this movie, but Clark, knowing that the last words he said to his father were, you're not my dad, and knowing that when he holds up his hand, the best way that I can show you that I didn't mean that is to listen to you, even though it's all I want to do right now. I want to show you that I love you, and I know that have to do that. I wish I'd written that.
Yeah.
That's like, man, and you can't take one scene on their own. On their own, they're both kind of like, I don't really get the logic behind like, you're not my dad is such a, it could be lame. And like why wouldn't you save him? But then when you put them together, it's,
that
all
makes sense. Yeah, no, like for a while, I didn't like the tornado scene for a bit because I actually dug the whole, especially with the old, the way that Jonathan died with a heart attack, because I was always like, well, that's what Superman can't save anybody from a heart attack. I love that aspect of it. So I was always like, but I like that a little bit better. But then, I came to the realization of like, oh, wait, there's so many layers when it comes to this. I mean, you have to like really watch that whole scene. Like you said, piece it all together and it all just makes sense. And a dad just going, just doing that. I mean, that whole scene will just break your heart now.
Well, Sean O'Connell said it, that he still doesn't like it, and it was on our podcast. And I got to go get another beer, and I'll get a drink on the Real Emotion when we had him. Cheers. But what he was explaining and why he didn't like it, and I said, that was fair. I listened to him, but then I said, so let me tell you this: the reason why that didn't happen is because if Zack Snyder would have had Superman having his father die by a heart attack, you know what everybody would have said? Wow, that's just what happened in the '78 Superman. Why is he doing it the same thing?
Or Smallville, I think.
Yeah, or small. And I went, so imagine him going, I'm going to take that situation and flip it on its head to where this is a choice now. This is something that he could have done. He doesn't know he could have done it because at that point in time, he doesn't know how to fly. In the universe, he might be super fast, but we don't know. We didn't see him training for saving people from a, size 8 or whatever they call them, registered tornado, right?
F5.
F5, yeah. So we don't know exactly if he would have done it, if he would have saved him, if he would have endangered somebody else. We have no idea. And then I went and I broke it down and I said, so imagine Snyder doing that for Pa Kent and now flipping that other situation where he can't save somebody by his choice, and it's when Lois dies, is basically his fiance or wife or whatever. And she dies not by his hand, but because somebody else was doing something and was trying to protect Clark, and Clark is now basically questioning why somebody else was involved and he had no idea about it, right? I mean, almost all of us are all parents. And if a loved one of ours was in somebody else's hands, I don't care how close we are with somebody else, if our loved ones were with somebody and something happened badly, we would not probably forgive them, for, probably life. And so think about that for a Superman. And so I started explaining that to Sean, and he was like, oh, okay. I think I can kind of get that. I was like, yeah, dude, this is like a different Superman than just flipping the world around because he lost Lois.
Of course, I always love to debate the fact that for me, it's like I grew up on post-crisis Superman and like Lois and Clark. So it's like I'm used to having both parents. So I'm looking at all these other versions going, in my world, Mom and Pop are both still alive.
I watched Lois and Clark like crazy, and Jonathan Kent was
and the animated series.
Yes, there's a lot of iterations where the parents are both there, but
it's so frustrating how they always connect to that 78. Even in the movie Man of Steel, the jump cut to the present time, the way it's structured, and all the different things that are different. Lois knows who he is. That they still cannot flip that switch saying this is a different iteration and I shouldn't compare it. So like once I saw that it jumped to the present time with the fishing boat, it's like this is going to be a different thing. To me, my mind flipped to accepting whatever is going to happen next.
I remember Kevin Smith even said that when he talked about Man of Steel. He goes, "Oh, okay, yeah, here comes the ship. It's going to crash, and we're going to see, baby penis Clark, and all that stuff like that. We're gonna see all the stuff. He's gonna lift the truck." Of course, it's Kevin Smith. He had to make a dick joke, but but then he was like, he was very like pleasantly surprised that it's just, well, we're present day now. What the fuck? And I even same with me. I thought, oh, we're gonna get that whole like a montage of him growing up. That's gonna be interesting. But at the same time, I was like, okay, we've seen it before. We even saw it, 6 years before in Superman Returns. We saw Clark growing up. We saw him trying to achieve his powers, running really, really fast in the cornfield and all that stuff, which was good. It's fine. you know. But the fact that he just went right forward and all of a sudden Clark's on a boat, it's like, whoa. All of a sudden you didn't know what the hell you were watching. Like, to me, it was like, okay, it could go anywhere now. I don't know where we're at. I thought I knew where this was going. I had no fucking clue. We never seen Clark on a boat, on a fishing boat. What? With a beard? What? You know?
Well, see, and I always loved that, because if we're gonna go with the Jesus imagery here, you know, you get the missing years.
Oh yes.
And
you thought about that, Scott.
You get the missing years. You get the wandering in the wilderness. You know, so I mean, because if you go back, you know, the Gospels end when he's like, you know, he's the kid. He goes to the temple, and the next thing you know, he's 30. He's 33. Like there's a whole chunk that we just skipped right over.
Interesting. I never really thought of it.
There's the thing that will be discussed on Man of Steel by the minute when it exists.
Yeah.
The thing that always stuck in my mind was, you know, my father believed this from the trailer, right? My father believed that the world was not ready. Like, if they found out who I was, I let him die believing that. Like, I believed that, and he died because of it. Informs the entire rest of his life. Yep. Like, anytime this comes out, then he's going to run, because if I change my mind, then am I dishonoring the thing that my dad died for? I feel like that could be, you know, applied to a million different things that people deal with garbage with their parents.
Yeah.
Where, you know, am I lessening what he did? And then the only person that breaks through it is Lois. But
then she feels shitty for even doing that. And then she's like, oh, fuck. Like,
yeah. And we get the reveal of, like, Pete knew. You know, you go back where it's I think probably the biggest change to this Superman mythology that doesn't get talked about at all is that everyone who grew up with Clark knows.
Right.
But
they're all the cops that dropped off Lois.
And you're not going to talk about it, because honestly, what is more modern day American than people being like, yeah, I know who Superman is, but I have my own problems. I put food on the table for my kids. What does knowing who Superman is like get me? That doesn't matter. I'm not going to tell anybody about it. That'd be rude. That'd be like if I went to school with someone and witnessed, you know, them having like an experimental phase. I'm going to go on Facebook and post about it. Be like, no, you know what this guy is going through. His life must suck. You know, his dad died, and now he could have saved him. Like, all of that stuff that just doesn't get. That I guess they did tell Lois to kind of lead her along her path, but it's the same thing as, because people always point to the Daily Planet and they're like, it would be so different because Lois knows who he is. It's like, well, it's different because everybody who knows him knows. That's not the issue. The issue is like, well, are you going to get a life along with this, or is this just going to be you? And then with that, I feel like a lot of the comic book stuff gets thrown out with that, and I'm okay with it because it's interesting.
Well, it goes to the and Andrew, to your point, it even goes to that great line, which is the name of like my favorite track on the soundtrack, is when Martha's talking to him at the graveyard at the end, and she goes, "What are you going to do when you're not saving the world?" Like that. That's the whole idea of you. It's why I love post-crisis Superman so much, is because he was Clark, and Superman was the guise he put on to allow him to save the world. You know, it's like the idea that I always like to say, Bruce is the disguise. He really is Batman. Like, Batman's who he is. Bruce is the guise he puts on. And I feel like Superman, especially with post-crisis, is the opposite, where he's Clark. Superman is the costume he puts on so that he can be the person that Clark wants to be.
That's some Lois and Clark. That is what I loved about Lois and Clark, and then was kind of like, yeah, that's good. And then Superman Birthright came out, and I was like, oh, I see you, Mr. Wade. Like, you're kind of walking the line in between where to live as Clark would be sad. Just to even add that. And so when I started watching Man of Steel, and it was like, smash cut to boat, this guy's life sucks. I was like, oh yes, all right, my Superman is finally here. Like, he would not be a really he'd be outgoing with his parents, but I do think Superman Birthright walked the line between that, and then I think that the same goes for Man of Steel and BVS, where God, I don't know how I'd watch that movie and try to figure out, like, is he more Clark here or is he more Superman? Where I think what we've said with Batman v Superman is he's presented as one, like Snyder made the choice to present him as one guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just from talking about this, it's like, yeah, no wonder why you would do that. Because if you do the other thing, they're going to say you're aping Reeves. And then if you do it where he's just super, it's almost like Brandon Routh.
Yeah. That's what I was saying.
He's already dealing with the duality of Batman so much. Like, how can you really dig into the Batman is Bruce Wayne versus Batman in this movie, but then also have Clark Kent versus Superman, and then you also have like a little bit of like Lex Luthor's. He's not. I think he's more in tune with his dual persona, but he has his public face and his private face. It's like, how many characters can you do that for before you're like, okay, someone needs to be streamlined for the sake of, and he already did that with Superman and Man of Steel a little bit more.
Yeah.
So
the one thing that he added, and if there was one thing I could go back and talk for 15 minutes more about in one of our episodes, it would be Clark in the apartment building with the
you want to talk more about him in the apartment?
No, not their apartment. That what I said about not building a life earlier, I take it back. They built a beautiful life together. But when he goes into the Gotham apartment and talking to the people looking for
the new kind of mean in him.
Yeah. And the also talking to Cesar Santos's lady. That feels like the kind of compassion that Superman doesn't get to have. You know, like he just wants to ask people like what is going on here, and as Superman he cannot. That is just not available to him. So it allows, like, I think it was Superman Birthright that was the first time I remember seeing that, where he said, I want a job where I can do that, like where I can, my job is to
connect with people. That Clark says that goes like, how can I help? I mean, he says, how can I help? Yeah.
She's like, you're Superman. What do you mean? And then we watch the movie and we're like,
you can't help in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like being famous, a famous person trying to help. Everything you do makes everything worse. Even if you're trying to do something nice, like look at Sean Penn. you want Sean Penn as Superman?
Yeah. I kind of want to see that now. Jeez. Put that in my head.
Yikes.
Yeah. That would be interesting.
Logic fan art, no.
I think that with Man of Steel, when I first saw it, I had known every time that I went to go see a Snyder film, 300, I was like, holy shit. I was blown away. I'd seen Sin City before, so I kind of thought it was going to be like that, but I had no fucking idea, because he like took Sin City and just fucking flipped it on its head. And then, okay, that was great. It changed action for me forever. So, all right, cool. And then Watchmen, I remember watching the trailers for Watchmen, and I was like, I have no idea what the fuck this is. It looks like somebody that looks like Batman, and that's about it. That's all I know. It looks like somebody with Batman, and I know that it's the guy that did 300, so I got to go see it. And so I went to go see it. My mind was blown to where I didn't know what I'd seen. Like, I
read the comic because of the trailers, because I'd never read the comic
Me
before.
too.
Oh, really? And
thank you. Yeah, because I saw it before Dark Knight
for the movie,
and it was crazy because I read and I loved the comic. I still didn't know what the movie was going to be. It didn't answer any of the questions I had about the trailer. Because I was like, and not in like it had nothing to do with it way, but I was like, I don't know how he can do this, or how he will do. I mean, it looks really cool, but like I don't know, like how he's going to go about tackling this subject matter. And like the trailer didn't even really the trailer was kind of like, this looks cool, find out more. Like
that was it. And that's how it sold me. That's why I was like, fuck, I gotta go see this film, because I had no idea what the story was. I had no idea about anything of Watchmen. All I saw was the trailer, and it was the Smashing Pumpkins trailer. I was like, I gotta go see it. I go and see it. I walk out of the theater and I'm like, what the fuck did I just watch? Because I had I couldn't compute it, because it was just so much. And so then you kind of go to Man of Steel. This is almost 4 years later. And I remember, like, I knew that it was a Superman film and I was excited about it. I knew about it. I'd seen the trailer or the teasers. I don't remember watching the second or third trailer before like paying attention. All I remember were the teasers. And so when I went to go see the film, I remember sitting there and like once the ship crashed, right? Mm-hmm. Because you got to remember, we had just seen the Smallville fight, and that was pretty intense. Like it was heavy, you know? And because I was so ingrained into that whole fucking section, when I see Zod now all of a sudden after the ship has fallen, I was like, holy shit, they're still fighting. Like in my head, I went, dude, they're still fucking going. And
that still happens when I watch the movie today.
Yeah.
Where they have like the Smallville fight, and then I was like, man, wait.
Yeah.
There's like an hour left.
Wait. Yeah. And you go, holy shit. Like, there's another part to this. And it's like, this is Superman's first fucking day, really. I mean, it's like his second day, weekend maybe.
Who was the producer on that? It's not John Peters, or who was it? I don't know. I'm trying to remember.
John Berg? Peter Berg?
But it was I don't know who I'm thinking. But I just remember when promoting it, they were like, "Oh yeah, if you liked Avengers, about
just Chris
yet." Yeah, it was
no.
He was talking about the final act, and he was like, "Oh yeah, if you like the final act of Avengers, you ain't seen nothing yet." And I saw this Man of Steel, and I mean, holy shit, dude! It changed me again, and then that's why when I saw BVS, it was kind of like that an outer experience where I went, holy shit, dude! Because that theatrical cut. I know everybody wants to sit there and say, "Oh, theatrical cut shit compared to Ultimate." It's not shit,
dude. I fell in love with BVS because of the fucking theatrical cut. Like, I can't. What am I supposed to say to that? Like,
I think that's a case of fans over embracing the narrative of this is the good one, though.
Right.
And because I feel the same. Like, I love it, and I'll be like, the editing doesn't make a ton of sense in some places,
right?
Especially when you know what was removed.
Yeah.
But it worked. I loved it when I saw it.
But I think the point is that like I love the theatrical version. I saw it 3 times in theaters, but I did have that experience of when I stayed up to midnight. When I stayed up till midnight to watch the Ultimate Edition, when it like dropped on my Vudu account, and I hit play at midnight, and I watched it.
I saw the pearls. Yeah, and I went, holy shit.
But I saw those scenes where the score didn't come blaring. Like I think about the shot that is the cops arriving at the house. And in the theatrical cut, it's like a smash cut with the bum. And I remember it just be kind of like it, like the sound hit me. And then you watch the theatrical, and it just all like. There's no smash cuts. It just all
they're watching a football game. They get the call, and it's just like transitions to that, and then it's just not like bam to like the chimney where the bats just come flying out. It's like whoa.
I don't know if anyone saw my tweet earlier, but about do you guys remember? There was a whole string of these, which would be fun to kind of make a bingo card for one day or something. But
our next drinking game, Dalton.
Yes.
People finally figuring out why Batman v Superman was bad. Do you remember that? Nobody could explain why it was bad. They just knew it was bad, and every couple of weeks there was, here's why it's bad. And it was, there's no moments in the movie, which is funny because then when Zach describes it to us, every minute is literally a moment. But the one that was so always funny to me, and I posted about earlier today, was when people are like, "Yeah, Batman v Superman sucks because there's not enough establishing shots."
What?
Really? It just jump one thing to the next. You can't go track.
You guys don't remember that? It was
I know. I saw the tweet, and I'm having my flashback to 2016, going, as we discussed last week, like just going through the show notes, going, "Oh, I remember that crap. I remember that crap. I remember that crap."
It's one of those things where it's like, but it's clear where you are and why without the establishing shots, but also there are establishing shots like where they're needed. I don't know. It's my explanation for that has always been that I think movies that people need to process and think about, people are so used to leaving the theater like with this energized, like, yeah, that was great kind of feeling. And like, I loved how Dyce explained his feeling after Man of Steel earlier, because that was very similar, where I don't know if I was mixed or what, but I was so like, was comparing it to Batman Begins, and I was like, it's like Batman Begins, but so loud.
Oh no, I was fucking exhausted, dude. I was like, holy shit, I wasn't ready for it. You know what I mean?
And I've never been like a huge Superman fan, so I was like, it was good, but like just so it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I couldn't process it, and so I just kind of, my brain never stops processing things. It just like puts them into the back somewhere where they like simmer. And then I was doing something, and I was like, you know what, I'll throw on Man of Steel while I'm whatever project I was working on. And then all of a sudden 2 hours later I realized I'd just been like staring at the screen unblinking for, and like I feel like all of Snyder's movies have had that to some extent. People don't always embrace them on the first time.
Oh well, hey, I'll be the
you give them enough patience, and eventually you're like, you have an experience with it where you're like glued. Even BVS, I struggled with it a little bit at first, where I liked it a lot, but it was just some parts that didn't it's not that they didn't work, it's just I didn't get them yet. And then I remember there's always a watch where you sit down and you watch it and everything just clicks. Yeah. And that experience is unrivaled in other movies. And it's you, if you put in the work to meet him halfway on the movies, it's so rewarding. But you can't, it's almost impossible to do all the time on the first viewing.
For me, I'll be the one to admit that I wasn't in love with Watchmen the first time I saw it, only because I was suffering with the fact that I did go and read the book. Yeah. And then I see that theatrical cut of the movie that's only 2
hours, 30 minutes.
Right. And all I could do was sit there going, man, there's a lot of crap missing. like that. And I saw it a second time with my dad. You know, that's something when I get an opportunity to, you know, hopefully talk to Zach one day, is I really just want to say thank you for making movies that I've always seen with my dad. Like every one of his movies, either on the first viewing or the second viewing. That's
awesome.
They're movies my dad wants to watch with me.
That's because
cool. Wow. And so Watchmen was a hard one for me because I'm a book guy. So like when you make an adaptation and you cut a whole bunch of stuff out, then of course I waited and then I saw the ultimate cut, and then I was like,
there it is.
Heaven, I'm in heaven, because it's almost 4 hours and everything's in here.
Except for I really like the theatrical. I mean, like that was before Watchmen. You know, there was just regular comic book movies. There was nothing rated R or anything about that. So to me, it was like shocking to see this. It's like, wow, this is dark. This is violent. I like it. You know, I really like it. I can't wait.
There were. I mean, there was like Blade. Oh yeah, there was Blade and like Punisher and stuff. But those were
but nothing like dude. Like I remember, like I mentioned, I had no idea about Watchmen, and all of a sudden I watch it. I walk out of the theater. I still don't know what I just watched, and I'm like, I got to go fucking read up everything I can about Watchmen, and then all of a sudden I become literally a diehard.
Go and give you know Keanu Reeves' Constantine another look, because that one
I did.
That one was a little ahead of its. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, even
I remember watching that.
Exactly like the character, it's fine. You still like him. He's still a good John. You know, even though he's not like the legit source, whatever the fuck. I don't know.
Dice is a hot take.
I just want to say it passes the Jimon Hunsu test. Jimon Hunsu is in it, therefore it is a good movie.
Papa Midnight. Yeah.
I mean, that was also like. That's what I know Gavin Rossdale from.
I'll tell you
anytime.
You know what? As opposed to being married.
When he was going through the breakup.
You know what's funny? What's funny is like here in SoCal, he just showed up on the local morning show here, and a lot of people like when they watch like the live stream of the morning show, he made a joke. He goes, "Oh yeah, a lot of people just see me go, hey, is that the guy from Constantine?" Yeah, like he made that joke.
Yeah,
he made that joke. They don't realize he's the singer to Bush, like one of the most popular alternative rock bands out there. It's pretty funny, but yeah.
That was also the movie that introduced me to. I don't know. I 100% do not know the actor's name because he's the actor whose eyes move a lot.
Oh, yeah. He was in Identity. He really moved those eyes in Identity. I can't. The chubby dude with the black when he was trying to
the priest.
Yeah. Yes, the priest. Yeah. He was trying to like drink all the stuff and it couldn't. Yeah.
He was in Identity. Oh wow.
Oh yeah, he was like
The ones with John Cusack.
Fuckers don't get second chances.
Oh.
No, but yeah, he does that thing with his eyes where
Yeah.
they like shift back and forth. I don't know how. I mean, I guess it's just like a tick or something that he does.
And I don't even know if that's something he has normally. I just
Or
know
like
him.
something that I know it's weird because especially in Identity, he uses it a lot because he's like fucked up in Identity, really fucked up. And it's just like he big time uses that. But man,
well, for me, I think it was my first time I ever saw Peter Stormare. So for me, it's like, and then of course, later for him to go, he killed my best men over a car. Zombie.
Yeah,
He's in Bad Boys too. That's where I
Bad Boys too. That's a
Yeah,
he always
He's a lot of Michael Bay
anytime
films.
like crazy, like Russian kind of dude. He's
Michael
like
Bay
there.
always-
He's always like a big character actor. They need somebody who has like
Is it
Armageddon.
The Cosmonaut in Armageddon is like my favorite.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
This is how we fix things in Russia.
yeah, yes.
American asses. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Minority Report.
He's fantastic at
Okay, wait. Who's he in Minority Report?
The
he was he was the guy who replaced his eyes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
He's one of those guys who is in almost every movie where they need a
he's in
Russian or something.
He's a that guy. He's a that guy.
He's a
That guy.
He's like that guy in Fast and the Furious, the Mexican
that
guy
scene-
that plays the Mexican guy in every movie.
Yep.
He was in The Dark Knight Rises.
Campo.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That scene in Minority Report is like the most extra, where they're just like, how far can we take this with just like the moldy sandwiches?
Oh my god.
And I don't know how. Like, imagine planning that scene out. They must have had post-it notes of just like, let's write down gross stuff and stick it to the board here, like moldy sandwiches.
He's
Tom Cruise. So, you know,
back
like,
to
I'll do it.
And then
Leave the
drink some
sandwich
fat
out.
milk. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Tom Cruise was like, no, it's not. It's not. It's
cool,
not
I
real
can
if I
do
don't eat the.
You can switch my eyes if you want.
I just really when he explains, he's all, yeah, he's all, and you got this, he's all, what is this? He's all, it's gonna turn your pretty face into mush. You know, and the way when he's talking about the thing that
he
he
chases the eyeball bounces down the hallway.
Oh,
Hit on the ground.
barely. That's classic. That is vintage Steven Spielberg right there. I mean, the fact that he violently tries to get the fucking eyeball out of the bag and then it's pulling down. And then he just chases them. I'm like, and then you hear the music. I'm like, that's
knowing, like pushing it as far as possible without breaking it. Like somehow a hair's breadth from being like, all right, Steven, that's enough. Is like, that I don't know how he does it.
It's one of those movies that I feel like people don't. I feel like it's been kind of forgotten.
One of his best.
It's one of the. You got a John Williams score. You got Steven Spielberg. It's
Tom
based
Cruise
on a.
running. Yeah.
It's based on a Philip K. Dick story. I mean,
it's so good.
It's so good.
The opening scene is so fucking good. Like when it just right down to the wire of explaining exactly what is happening, and you just get a beautiful Tom Cruise running, throwing off his helmet and just darting to the door to stop the murder right as it's happening. I mean,
You know another one that fits in this conversation.
No,
a
Dyce,
little bit different.
Dyce, you had something. Hold on.
Okay.
I saw you do this.
This is a confession. My brain starts to wonder, how did Max von Sydow get that ball to show up of him murdering the guy that he found in the hotel room? And my brain is like, don't do it.
No.
It will never make sense.
You start breaking
Never
it
in a
down.
million years.
Yeah.
You can't implant a fake memory because it is going to happen, but he never killed him.
Right. Disbelief feels like suspend some.
It's almost
Chris,
like hey, let me try this and maybe it'll happen. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's never. It's
Chris,
an
what were
orgy
you
of
about to
evidence.
say?
Yeah,
I
Steve.
don't think I was going to say anything. I think it was Steve.
Okay, well, this one that I feel like, based on a recent tweet, is going to get a response from Dyce. Man, you got me blanking now.
You know how many orgies of evidence we get, Steven? You know how many orgies of evidence we get in this job? 0.
Here we go. Enemy of the State.
Any other
Right.
One of the greatest films ever made. Yep.
Isn't that one? last movies. What was like that was one of his last, right? No.
And with a Mexican standoff, like how like
Yep. You ever jerk off in the shower? None of my fucking business. You're goddamn right. That is an epic movie.
Underrated Will Smith movie, I will say that.
And Jason Lee. Very underrated Jason Lee.
Bring in Gene Hackman like halfway through the movie.
Real.
I know
Also,
they put him on the poster and everything.
Gabriel
It's like
Byrne. Bring in Gabriel Byrne for one
just for
scene
that
and then just
little
gets what?
Yeah.
Totally off
And
the
that
wall.
was,
Oh, I should also
Jack
point
Black
out
in it, right? Jack Black's in there, right?
Yeah.
One of the computer guys. Yeah.
the guy that is friends with Will Smith, who he's rowing with. The only other movie that guy has been in was Point Break. And that was
trying
it.
to remember
He
him.
was in that because he was a surfer and he was one of the gang. But then I guess Tony Scott was like, yeah, the guy from Point Break. I need him in this one scene.
This is one of the things you learn about Dice from doing the podcast with him. He has a mind like a steel trap for random actors that are in like one scene in a movie, and he'll know their name and their entire filmography. What's the name of the guy that plays Island Scientist?
Richard Burden. Very good. He's very good. I like him a lot. Also, it makes me happy that he was in the leather jacket at the docks first.
Yeah.
And Zach was like, this guy would look great in some like island khakis. Some like white colonialism island khakis on a Indian Ocean beach. Yep.
Every once in a while we talk
You're a
about
trivia guy.
names from like by the actor's name. You'll be like, back when we were with whoever, and I'm like, who? And I'll look it up, and it's like, oh, that's the actress that plays Kahina Ziri. Like,
Wow.
why are you?
She was in Lovecraft, man.
Yeah, and
Amazing in that show.
His House is that horror movie on Netflix.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've watched part of it.
Lovecraft Country. Oh yeah, dude. She has some powerful scenes in that show. Like, dude, like because you don't realize. Like when I first saw her, because she was speaking with a regular accent, I was like, what the fuck? Oh shit! Oh yeah, that was Kahina. Shit. And then you see her acting, and her acting is just so brilliant in this show.
Isn't she Rose?
Ruby.
Ruby.
Yeah.
She's like astounding in that series. Like
This is
and then they do some VFX shit that I've never seen in my life. That I mean, my mind is. I was watching the scene and they're doing something and they had this visual effects scene happen in the middle process. Like the camera, think of it like with Zack Snyder's rounding around everybody, but just think about one human in front of that and you're just seeing something. I was shocked. I was like, what the how the fuck did they do that? Like, it doesn't trip me out usually on TV shows to go, how did they even accomplish that? But holy shit. Lovecraft Country.
That's a behind the scenes piece for my. Does it count as a plug if I say my Hallmark Christmas movie drinking game?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I got to refill.
One of the drinks is, if you recognize, it's my favorite. It's my favorite entry in the game. Is if you recognize an actor,
Because you're the one that spots it every time, and nobody has the balls to call you on it. Like you could be. I have a feeling like if you're a few drinks in, you start to make it up, and people are like, "Well, he's got to be right," because I have no idea.
Someone, when you're more drunk, it helps. Weirdly enough, but someone will be like, "Oh," and you're like, "Name them or finish your drink. Name what you know them from," and it'll be like, "Oh, it was the sister-in-law from the one where the girl from the factory went to the small town for the baking, the cookies," and it's like. I love the human brain fascinates me. Even in an intoxicated state, it'll be like there was something about that actor's face that I remember distinctly more than like the plot or who was the lead in that movie. But I do think that is the reason why people end up as faces, not names, right? Like some people never know who Josh Lucas is. Just never. We'll
Yeah,
never
no,
know it. But if you're like, remember in Hulk, he got blown up and he went like, oh,
Yeah, and then of course he was also Reese Witherspoon's love interest in Sweet Home Alabama.
There's that,
Oh,
and he was
that's
also in Stealth with Jamie Foxx and
yes.
Jessica
Yeah,
I haven't seen any of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yep.
even know who that is.
Josh Lucas. He shows up. I mean, he was in
You'll know his face
American
if you see
Psycho.
it.
He was in American
Garage
Psycho.
Sale, Aaron Eckhart.
Yes, American Psycho. Yeah,
And
you're
like
right.
the most budget version of Matthew McConaughey you could ever imagine.
Oh yeah, totally.
Which is funny
you
because
know,
Matthew
they-
McConaughey is a budget version of Matthew McConaughey.
they try to
No,
get.
I was going to literally flip the script on the conversation just because we were going that way anyways.
Mm.
But that new Mandalorian episode.
Fucking hey.
Yeah.
Did we all see
I
it?
mean,
I
I've-
saw.
yeah,
I
don't-
literally
know who
pushed
it is.
my kid. I said,
I know who it is.
I literally
Are we
woke up
talking
to
about
them away.
spotting bit characters again? Because I know if
Yeah.
that's what
well,
inspired
right, yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Because when I first saw the episode, I was like, wait. And the only reason why I recognized it because me and Avery had watched Planet Terror. So I was like, hey, you remember the cop and the brother that is the barbecue guy, and they're in Planet
Didn't
Terror?
recognize him
She's
at
like,
first.
yeah. She was like, yeah. I was like, that's him. She was like, oh,
Dude,
that's
I was
cool.
like, it was like the second time he showed up on screen, and I was like, oh fuck, it's Michael Biehn. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh my! No,
Yeah.
I'll admit that for me and Steven,
Oh, no worries.
Steven and well, you guys will understand after our conversation last week, but there was definitely that moment of, why did you say that name?
yeah, Chris, you haven't seen it yet?
No, I haven't seen it, but I know I was already spoiled by that.
Well, now
I
you know
know.
Michael
Yeah.
Biehn is in it. So
Well, you already knew. You already
Oh,
knew.
yeah.
Yeah, you already knew who
Well,
was going to show up, and she's
yeah,
a badass. She's great.
Well, I'll say this: for us all knowing that it like who was going to show up,
Yeah.
they were just like, "Fuck it, we don't care. Just open it.
Opening scene.
Just open the fucking show. Who cares? We're there." And I mean, for me as a Star Wars fan, and I know Steven, you had tweeted out like, "Oh, they finally gave me something to actually be excited about." I mean, if they are going this route, and I don't know if they are, but
they're
if
probably
they're
not.
about to- well, no, they're probably not.
Based on how the show.
Well, I get it, and this is what I'm saying. Like, so the Mandalorian is the show about a Mandalorian. If they truly go in the direction that I think they are trying to go to, it feels like they're about to like go, all right, Mandalorian is about to be ending, and then we're going to continue it third season, but it's going to literally be all this other stuff, and we're not going to even focus on the Mandalorian because
There is a Ahsoka show that is rumored / basically confirmed to be
Yeah.
in development. Also,
Oh, yeah, after this weekend, it definitely will be.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean this was totally a backdoor pilot material. Like it had like it was like textbook
Yeah,
backdoor
today's
pilot.
episode. Yeah, today's episode was like a test, and everybody was like, "Fuck yeah, more."
On board.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
Which
I'm all,
was great
I'm all
for me
for.
because I haven't even done a complete watch of Clone Wars and Rebels. Like that's
yeah,
part of
neither have I.
Oh,
Neither have I.
shit.
But
Oh,
but
no.
here's the, no, but here's the thing is that, but that also speaks
Dice,
to the
we lost
strength of
Dice.
the episode is that even without having seen everything, just with the little bits and pieces that I've seen, and I'm familiar with the character, even I could watch the episode going,
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
what's really funny to me is watching on social. There's a really funny response to this where it's almost like people who know the canon well are enjoying it less because the number of takes that I've seen this season or about the show in general, but especially this season where it's like I really enjoyed it because I'm a fan and I know all the characters they're referencing. But imagine how lost you would be if you were some pleb who didn't know what all these references were. And I'm like, no, they
No.
structure it. It's not like imagine watching A New Hope, like having seen the prequels and be like, well, I know who Obi-Wan is, so I know what's going on here, but you guys must have lost.
Yeah,
the original trilogy was built on going, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. What is he talking
Yeah.
about? You just
Who's
had
that
Clone Wars.
guy?
very well.
Why did he just bring up some war that we were talking about? What are you talking about? Your father? What the fuck?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Really
and I
had
think
to
that
reach that opening.
this episode especially, I think really did a phenomenal job of threading that line of like talking about stuff. Like I think that people who know it are fine with it. People have no idea who Ahsoka is are like, yeah, cool, that's whatever. This is what Star Wars does. It's the people who like know who Ahsoka is, but like haven't watched Clone Wars or anything that are probably the most lost because they're like, I know I'm missing stuff. It's like, well, no, not really.
I know I'm missing stuff, but I'm not. But I didn't. But my point is that I know I'm missing stuff. It did not squelch my enjoyment of the episode, and if anything, it finally lit another freaking fire under my ass to go back and watch Clone Wars.
Oh, dude, my daughter. The moment the episode was over, my daughter was like, "We got to watch Clone Wars again. We're starting over."
Oh no,
dude,
it made me want to watch.
I do that every day, regardless. But
well, I know, but I was like.
It just shows you. I mean, look at her name was trending misspelled on fucking Twitter. It just shows you right there that people don't know what the fuck. They're just like excited, and then the wrong spelling of the name was trending. Man. I'm like, oh Jesus, come on. I mean, even me, who's not like an avid like Clone Wars Rebels like watcher, I'm like, come on, that's not how you spell. Yeah.
Well, so this is what I'm most excited about, right? Is one, I don't think that's the last time we're going to see her.
No.
Two, I think what they did was so if you guys are missing the entire fucking connection, remember, Rosario Dawson, she's already worked with Robert Rodriguez. I'm almost fucking guaranteeing that the episode that he directs is another Ahsoka Tano episode because Rosario Dawson in Sin City and Sin City 2, obviously, with Robert Rodriguez, dude, they were great. They were great together. They had that chemistry. Imagine, and Robert Rodriguez is a director that we haven't seen yet. So
I know when is it? When is this episode showing up? I wonder.
We've only got
if Rodriguez is going to direct an episode, it's got to be like almost Westernish because that's where he thrives. I mean, to me, but then again, I could be wrong because I don't know. I mean, who knows when it comes to these directors?
Well, dude, he did Alita. That's why I'm putting.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Yeah. So Alita, and now he's got Rosario Dawson, and now he's already worked with her. So
I went old school Rodriguez, and I'm thinking Desperado.
I was thinking Spy Kid. I was like, I don't know how he's gonna Shark Boy,
Shark Girl
coming on next. Yeah.
I'm
just saying.
So I watched Desperado religiously when I was a kid. I mean, not only because I was, Selma Hayek made me a man. Hayek, I mean, just gorgeous on top of gorgeous right there. But I mean, it was just a badass movie. Just just a good shootout. Great fucking flick.
You know what fucked me up in that movie though?
What?
You know what fucked me up with that movie though? Whenever the guy. When he gets his leg broke and then he fucking knocks the dude out by popping it back in. I was like, oh
God. Oh yeah. When he was fighting the dude and it was like he was out for the count and then he just fucking did crazy like air roundhouse kick and just knocks it back into place by knocking the dude out. That was badass. That was badass. God damn.
Yeah, and also a film that Steve Buscemi's in there and you're just like
Tarantino.
Yeah.
Tarantino shows up for a bit. I mean, it was just
bartender gets the worst.
Yes, exactly. Cheech, fucking Cheech. I know. I love how he's all, the bartender always survives. He goes, no man, he got it worse than that. Yeah, he just Steve Buscemi is fucking fantastic in that movie. But that whole movie.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking Star Wars with Ahsoka Tano again, but Robert Rodriguez. How many episodes do they have?
Two.
I thought they had 8.
Maybe 3.
I thought it was 8. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but this was 6, right? So they've got 2.
No, this is 5.
This was 5.
This is only 5?
There's only 5.
Oh, that's a relief.
Which I actually thought it was only 4.
That's a relief.
So we've got one more that's going to have nothing to do with this. They're going to go like they're going
to have that episode where Mando like shows up on a planet. He needs to have his ship repaired, and then somebody wants to have him like, hey, can you like help us out with this heist? And he's going to help him out, and then his ship's going to be
exactly. And then there's going to be a 2-part finale.
How much was Ahsoka in the actual episode?
A lot.
Am I asking?
Yeah,
a lot.
A lot.
It's her episode.
Dude,
the episode is literally the Jedi.
Yes, it's called The Jedi, and it ends on a very like Kill Bill final act kind of ending.
Oh well, this is all I was going to say about it without even spoiling it or anything like that. I was watching that, and me and Avery were watching it at the same time, and both of us were just like, because she's a Tarantino fan, if you can imagine, She went. That reminds me of Kill Bill.
Kill Bill Volume 1.
Yeah, they were like when
well, and the fact that
O-N-H-E.
given the nature of what she's doing, it was very fitting.
Yeah, exactly. It was very, and you were just like, oh, and she said that, and I kind of like, I was like, oh shit, you're right. The only thing that was missing, and this isn't anything, is just seeing a little bamboo water, fountain like just ticking down. Yeah, but no, dude, it felt very inspired by Tarantino, and which again, I mean, Dave Filoni, he directed it. I don't know if I've ever seen anything from him that was so heavily inspired by Tarantino that I did in this episode. So
yeah, well, and the episode that he directed, he directed the pilot last season, right? And I enjoyed the pilot, but then he directed the episode on Tatooine, and I was not a fan of that one, the Gunslinger.
See, I liked it. I remember talking to you about that, and like I liked it.
I like that one.
The dragon.
No. The one in
season 1.
I don't know. It wasn't bad. It was just, I think the performances just didn't like the Amy Sedaris was like, I don't know, just her character didn't quite.
They were on.
And
on
then
he's kind of a goofy character.
And then what's his face? The gunslinger kid was just frustrating as a performer. And then I don't know, like the plot, like the nature of it was fine. I think a little bit frustrated, and this show does it all the time. If I get a pet with Mando, it's like they'll like a swoop and they'll be flying through the air 80 miles an hour without a helmet, winds rushing back their face, and he like turns his face to the side to someone 7 yards away, also flying, and he's like, "Hey, so here's what the plan is," and it's like yeah, casual conversation, and I'm like, I don't, that's not. Like I can suspend disbelief, but what you're doing is like it just put a helmet on and add some comm chatter, and it's fine. Like why do we have this weird like I'm gonna casually talk while I'm swoop engine like.
Yeah, there's a lot of that happens throughout. When it comes to this season, I mean, the first episode was great. Second one, when it came to certain things, the whole eggs controversy, it was like,
the second one was good because it felt like an alien film. Like it felt like a, really like aliens.
I liked a lot about the second one. My frustration with it was the way it treated, like the way the egg issue was presented was too like, and then also the reaction, the way Lucasfilm like defended it also. Like I don't have a problem with the story idea. Like Baby Yoda eating the eggs as a story idea, there's no problem with that, right? That's like he does dumb stuff, he causes problems. That's great. The eggs weren't fertilized, so he's not actually killing anybody, but he's reducing the so there's a bunch of stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is that the frog lady put a value on it, precious thing to her.
So then it's genocide.
And then so the tone of the episode should like convey that. Sure, have Baby Yoda eat the eggs, but like, oh, that's a tragic thing, right? And so they've got him doing that, and then isn't that goofy?
Hey, I just came over because you're talking about Yoda eggs.
And then even so though, it's like, okay, well, they can still redeem this if there's like, I thought at the end there was going to be like a moment of character growth where he's like, oh, I now recognize, and then they're like, nope, wink at the camera as we like iris out of the episode, and it's like I don't. And then a lot of like women, like Star Wars fans that are women, like got really upset about it, and Lucasfilm's reaction was like, oh, it's no big deal, they're not fertilized, and it's like I don't. If anybody knows any woman who's like gone through like fertility issues or like in vitro fertilization or anything like that, is an emotional, traumatic, like complicated, grueling process to harvest your eggs and carry.
Whether or not they're ever fertilized.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
It's not even that. It's like we've never seen a big issue of him being so hungry that he's just like, fuck this, I'm grabbing these. Like, dude, that's just crazy.
I feel like if the story of the episode was taking a chicken and her eggs to meet her husband who was setting up a new life in another galaxy, eating those eggs would still be more fucked up than usual.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and once again,
she can just have more.
Baby Yoda, and like he first choked Cara Dune last season. Like he does that stuff, and that's fine. Or not, it's not fine, but it's like for the sake of a story element there.
Right.
But then to be
something we learn about his character through that.
But then for nothing ever happened with it. You just ate him, and that's it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, then for the direct wall breaking moment where it's like har har har, isn't he cute? And it's like no, that's not cute. That's bad, and you should present it that way. Have it in there, sure, but like what he's doing here is a problem for it to be in there, but don't present it as like
it's essentially
also just the way people have justified the cognitive dissonance that they must inevitably feel that there is something a little amiss here. I feel like people they want it to not be an issue so that they don't feel bad about like laughing at the antics.
Yeah, it's weird because like I loved the episode. Like I legitimately I was very impressed because I'm not really huge on Peyton Reed otherwise, and I was like, that's actually a pretty cool. The stuff with the spiders was fun, and the chip chase.
Yeah,
was all
not when
cool.
you have arachnophobia. I was kind of like squirming.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
Hey, I thought the X-wings looked fantastic in the episode. So
Yeah.
I was enjoying the dog fighting.
That was cool. But when like you saw the big spiders, I kind of was like, shit. You know, like my arachnophobia kind of like started getting a little jittery. I gotta, you know.
It was very Lost in Spacey.
Yeah,
it was. Yes. It very was.
Well, that's why, you know, so seeing those two episodes and then getting into the third one was, you know, it was okay. It was good. I mean, you had Bo-Katan and you had the big reveal of that.
They brought
the
it
assault on the ship at the end was pretty awesome.
Yeah. It was a dope. It was for action. It was kind of like, all right, it was there, right? Like I didn't notice anything. It wasn't until the fourth episode where I went, this feels like I'm watching a fucking film. Like I was so impressed. I was like, dude, who the fuck directed? I thought it was like, I was like, this must be Robert Rodriguez's episode because I was just so impressed. Minus the jeans guy. But I was full on like, holy shit, this film.
Well, I'm mostly on board with you. However, I did notice maybe less in the editing than the directing, but I think the directing plays a part in that with Carl Weathers' episode. I was like 90% down with it, but that action scene was like, here's 10 seconds of cool action. Slide wipe. Here's 10 seconds of cool action. Slide. I'm like, okay, can you find?
No, it was very quick, and I felt that too. But I was kind of like, I feel like he was like, how the fuck can I make this action film fit into an hour slot? Like this is how. And I was like, okay, I get it, it's there. But that was the most actiony of a Star Wars film that I thought, or that I felt that The Mandalorian felt as far as anything from season 1. Season 2, I was like, that episode was amazing. I felt like I was watching a Star Wars film.
Which one?
And that all changed this week. So I went, oh, fuck. Okay, never mind. This is a Star Wars film. Thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
In an hour.
So, yeah. And so, Chris, dude, please, when we get done here,
right after
watch the fucking episode, man.
It's so good.
It's amazing, man.
It'll make you crave like a Jedi series, like
or like hard-boiled eggs.
Oh, cool.
Dice, is your go bag packed?
Now, something like that. So,
any minute. I keep waiting for the tweets.
I gotta ask Dice and Colbert.
Bye, guys.
Hey, give me my headphones.
When you,
bye, guys.
When you think of things like, you know, I can understand breaking down BVS by the minute and even Man of Steel and most of the stuff that's kind of really heavy driven with dialogue. But, you know, looking at a lot of the Star Wars stuff, like if you were to think about that, right? And I'm not talking about sequel trilogy, right? I'm talking about like, imagine you breaking down the original trilogy and you get into points, and you get into points that are like, everything's fine here, everything's good, nothing's happening. How are you?
In here,
that's like one conversation anyway. And then you're like, how do you find logic and all that stuff in there, or even in the prequel trilogy when you got like Anakin going, I just hate sand, man. Well,
that's what's interesting. And I'm surprised more people haven't pointed this out. But there is a Star Wars Minute podcast that is like popular before. I don't know
Oh,
if
you guys ripped them off. That's where.
I don't know if
you
we
already got.
discussed
Oh,
that.
you already stole their.
It would be very
their
different.
Well, I mean,
domain.
there's a number of different like we're definitely not the first to take the concept.
Right.
But I've never listened to Star Wars Minute. I just know that it exists. But especially after doing BVS, I'm like, there's no way that Star Wars, especially knowing the editing process of that movie,
Yeah.
and like the fact that like there's no way that fits is cleanly into a minute by minute structure.
Like it was.
But
5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I mean, just breaking down the dialogue, though, that's what I mean. Like, because that's essentially what you got. What's the perfect marriage is Terrio and Snyder. Because when you don't have a lot of dialogue heavy based minutes, you have beautifully choreographed and well stunts and these paintings of a minute. You know what I mean?
That
I
further
remember
the
when
story.
right.
Like,
And I remember when y'all
Star
talked
Wars
about
minute.
going up the stairs, the cops. That is a full fucking minute. You know what I mean? He's just
Right, yeah.
creeping up to the stairs. And it's like, yeah.
I do like this might be controversial, but I don't think it is. I would be more inclined to do that for The Force Awakens because that was the one movie where the pressure, where J.J. Abrams was like, every second of this needs to be towards something.
That's
like,
very
yeah.
Every
Yeah,
single
true.
scene of this needs to be, even if it isn't like
Dialogue.
advancing the plot, it
Yeah.
would need to be trying to give you a feeling. And probably the Rise of
That would
Skywalker.
be a
because he's
bad.
doing it like
You
a
guys,
lightsaber.
there would be a fucking hour-long episode each time, just in the whole when she hits the lightsaber, and it just fucking goes in that whole like background and all that, like, and to getting to whenever she's like, oh, that's a story for another time. Like, imagine that ending. That's like 5 hours of content.
Did we ever get that story, by the way?
No, absolutely not.
Which one?
Fuck. Jesus Christ.
Her Force back.
Yeah, I was like,
Well, that's classic JJ is we'll fix it later, and it
and we never got the story of, like, I was always, because I remember a long time ago when, before Force Awakens even got its title, we knew that it was happening, episode 7. And I remember, like, the rumor that came about was the MacGuffin of this new trilogy was going to be Luke's hand. It was going to be Luke's hand
floating through space.
Hopefully space, yeah.
Yeah, or something
I
like
hated that at the
remember
time. I wish we got that.
I remember that video, like, got yeah.
Me too.
And then it was like when I watched Force Awakens and I saw, we had the lightsaber, and I kept going, okay, where was Luke's hand? Luke's hand had literally a death grip on that lightsaber. What happened to his hand? My theory was like, oh yeah, they got the hand and they started making clones out of that, the DNA.
Well, and if you read the book, if you read Legends, that's a thing. If you want me to send you more books, Dave, I can send you more books.
I mean, Scott, that may be relevant now again. Like think about the ways they could, like, they would have to character swap a lot, but like imagine like I don't know, this might be heresy to some people, but like imagine if they were to redo that, but like swap Ahsoka for Mara Jade.
Mm-hmm.
Like think about the similarities in the Apprentice of the, like, and it would be a totally different thing, but they could construct a very similar, like maybe smaller scale, but like sort of redo Heir to the Empire with like Ahsoka and Ezra and Thrawn, obviously, and like fit all that into I don't know, it'd be a TV show probably, but all the pieces to do a version of that are there.
Yeah, I don't know, Dice. You have something.
No, I don't talk about Star Wars.
I've been waiting when we're talking about Mandalorian. I'm waiting for you to make everybody mad.
No. Well, no, I mean, it's
pull this, Snyder. I don't know what this is.
If Dice were to sit there,
I don't know where.
If Dice were to sit there and tell me that he's a big fan of The Last Jedi, I can understand it. If he were to say he wasn't a fan of The Last Jedi, I'd understand it.
Yep.
But I'm going to say this, and this is going to be controversial, and this is going to be earmuff it for me, Chris. Would you, real quick? If you could just earmuff it for me. No, not really, because I'm not going to say anything. But seriously, as far as what was said in this latest Mandalorian episode, there's literally only one character that could be talked about that is existing in this time frame that would even make sense for anything that's about to happen in the next 1 or 2 episodes.
True.
And I'm so fucking curious if they're going to go this route. Because if they do, this is Batman showing up on HBO Max.
We got to remember, we got what's his name? What's his name? I always just know him as Gustavo from fucking Breaking Bad.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah. Okay, so he has the dark
Mark
saber,
Gideon.
right? He has the dark saber, right?
Right.
We have yet to really see that in this. We saw it at the end of season 1. Are we going to see it again here? And if he uses it, who's he going to use it
Well,
with?
now Mando has a weapon to fight him with.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Something
yeah.
that I thought was really interesting about this episode exposed, the show in general has kind of shown me this, but exposed about the especially this episode about the nature of the sequels, is it was always kind of a Kobayashi Maru, is that how you pronounce it? Of like, you can't not bring back the original trilogy cast, but also like you can't make it all like you can't make it like you can't do the true set Bakura and Heir to the Empire, like for the Legend fans out there. You can't set it 5 years after Return of the Jedi with the original trilogy cast.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, we have to bring back the original trilogy cast, but that means we have to set it 30 years later. But we don't have time to tell all the stories in between, so we'll just skip them. And so therefore, this third trilogy is the most important story, right? Because it's like the end of the Skywalker saga. Yet it has to reference all of these events we haven't seen that sound way more interesting than the events that are actually happening in the movies.
Yeah.
And then like the movies end, and I'm like, but I want to see like the second episode of this trilogy to me that I wanted to see, and not just because like it's my dream trilogy, but like the trilogy is over. I'm like, what the stories that you told here, the best part is all off screen, the fall of Luke's temple and all of that stuff, and what this show is reminding me of is that I think audiences, maybe they should have just bit the bullet and not had the original trilogy characters in, or found a way to, or not made them so central to the plot, because they bound the story around 3 characters
that all got killed.
None of whom were left at the end of the trilogy to bring a proper resolution to that. So therefore, the new characters didn't really get a chance to be their own thing. They exist in the shadow of these characters who they didn't have an opportunity to build out, because they're like supporting characters. The original trilogy characters were just supporting characters here. Whereas if you just say screw it, this new trilogy happens during the era of Mando. Audiences are invested in that. We have a concept of this universe and world building that happened. Like there's no world building in like The Force Awakens, because they're just like 30 years of stuff happened and then everything's destroyed. Have fun. Whereas here it's like there's the remnants. Yeah, it's like the remnants of the Empire, and we know what's going on sort of with the New Republic,
stormtroopers,
and we know these characters, and people are responding to Ahsoka and this other stuff, and there's intrigue about what it's building to. And then if you need to, then for your episode 9, if these are like you set it more in this era, then then episode 9 is where they like find the original trilogy characters, and they're like to close out, or I don't know how you fit that in exactly, but I think that I don't know if there is a right way to do it, and maybe that's part of the problem that they ran into. But to me, I feel like there's way more investment in not just these like what's going on here, but like the universe, the sequel trilogy, from anything else that's happening, and all the story that they're backfilling now is like more interesting on its own than it is as a part of, like, I'm not really interested in how Snoke came to be, but I am interested in that plot, in the sense of like, this is what I want to know what the Empire did after Endor, but I don't really care about how Snoke came to be. But even though it's one and the same thing, like I'm more interested in seeing it built out from this end than backfilled.
Well, and also because of the resolution of it, like Snoke is literally just nothing. He didn't.
Yeah.
There is no reason. You get what I mean? Like
everybody's like,
you already know his end.
Yeah.
Like you understand his end, so it's kind of like, no, I don't need to see that shit. Like it was, and I get what Ryan was doing, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, the fuck did you build up this character for?
Well,
I even give me anything.
I love the fact, like, I have issues with a lot of issues with Last Jedi. Snoke dying is not one of them, but my issue is that after the fact, they didn't just like if they just embraced like, yeah, that was Palpatine. Just say yes, it was a Palpatine flesh robot, like a flesh puppet. Like just go with that instead of being like, well, he wasn't, but he no, just say it was Palpatine the whole time, and you make things so much easier. But they were resisting. I don't know exactly why the whole time, and then at the end, it's like, okay, so you killed Snoke. And so people were mad that he didn't matter. And in response to that, you don't say, oh, no, it did matter. You say, yeah, you're right. It didn't matter. Like, which is weird because like after The Last Jedi, I was like, okay, I've got issues with the movie, but like I defended that part of it. And then after Rise of Skywalker came out, I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't really know what the point of any of that was.
Which if you think about this, which is insane, right? So that was kind of like what DC did with Zack, right? When they were kind of like, oh yeah, BVS. Oh, you know what? We kind of messed up. You know what? Let's do something else. Let's do that. And now, oh, you know what? We fucked up really big by then. Hey, Zach, how about we go ahead and give you your film back and let's just, let's bring everybody else back. Let's just see if we can keep this thing going.
It'd be like the equivalent of saying, hey, Zach, we're not going to do the Snyder Cut, but we'll let you direct Justice League 2.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? And so that's why, like, I don't know how Disney... It's like Disney is willing to sit there and say their sequel trilogy was fucked up. It was like mediocre kind of. And they're going, but The Mandalorian, we're bringing in all these characters.
Well, the biggest thing with Disney always is that they're not willing to make a choice, right? They're not willing to say, this is not for you. This is for you.
Yeah. About
anything. And as someone like me who I don't like one size fits all anything for the most part. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Now my hat's got a little tag on the back I got to adjust all the time. That's dumb. I'd much rather I'm fine saying, oh yeah, that's not for me. I'm comfortable with that. But to be like, hey, this is for you, and then to watch it and be like, no, I don't know who this is for, is like insulting and frustrating, especially when it's a property that I fell in love with because it was like, so it was for me. And people are like, oh no, Star Wars has always been for everyone. It's like,
nah.
Go tell that back in 77, man.
Look at it was. Yeah, I mean, it resonated with people, but it is not a like that was lucky, right? George Lucas didn't go out being like, how can I engineer this to fit all the right like story points to make everybody happy?
I still remember Harrison Ford when he talked about the dialogue that George Lucas wrote. He walked up and he's all, hey, you could write this shit, but you can't say it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Well, and also, if you've ever gone back, I remember when Dark Horse released a comic book adaptation of what the original screenplay for the Star Wars was going to be. You want to talk about something that was not going to check all the boxes. like for me, reading that, like that was a cool thought experiment of like a Star Wars Elseworlds of wow.
Well, you want to
how did this become what came out in 77? Like I really it's so weird. And for me, it's more like a mental exercise of this is a weird story that wasn't even a trilogy. Like you do feel like when you read the Star Wars, like that was a one and done. Like that's all that was going to be.
If you want to know how like out of touch Lucas was with like how out of touch Lucas's Star Wars ideas were with like what Star Wars ended up being, which I know is weird because obviously that was his Star Wars, but like that was through many other filters. But like on like as far as his scripts go and the ideas that he tried so hard to get onto the screen that somehow always got killed off before it made there. Just look at the title of the every single title of each revision of the script for Star Wars, which is now A New Hope, and look at how long he held on to that according to the Journal of the Wills in the title of that. Like it was always like the Legends of Luke Starkiller as taken from the Journal of the Wills. Yeah. and it was like in there forever because the idea of like these are aliens that came and gave me was like a long time ago far away. That's what that means is aliens came and told me this story for and like up until like he's at the like, I don't know how, like there's no story about like who convinced him to take that out, but it's clearly like the last darling to die in that script, where you can tell that someone eventually came up and was like, George, look, there's aliens, like aliens, there's aliens in the faraway time and place. Cool. Let's sever this, like they told you the story part. I don't think people are gonna be as into that.
You mean it's not like the grandpa and Princess Bride sitting down going, "Is this a kissing book?"
Right.
So I gotta ask Dice, why can't you talk Star Wars? Man? I gotta ask it, dude.
I spent most of my life being the biggest Star Wars fan that I knew. And when all of this new stuff came out, it kind of felt like, oh, I'm not a real fan, I guess.
Makes sense.
I was always there, like, because new Star Wars fans, I mean, like the true fans now that are like the ones that are like all connected and stuff are like, yeah, Dash Rendar sucks. That is the dumbest character ever, and nobody wants to see a Shadows of the Empire movie. And like, you know, and I'm like, I don't know, I didn't grow up with any fans like that. Where did these fans come from? I've known like this is like the fanboy dream forever. When did this become like everybody knows?
Everybody knows.
I think J.J. Abrams said it best when he said that it was like the closest he's gotten to shade on The Last Jedi, when he said that he's like, I respect what Ryan did. I know the story that he was trying to tell, and I'm interested by it. I don't think people come to Star Wars to be told that something doesn't matter. And that's like, I think my wife saw The Last Jedi, but it was kind of casually because I went and saw it first, and I was like, I don't really know how I feel about it after the previous one and where it ends up. And then we went and saw the third one together, and her takeaway was like, that was great. Like that felt like that was what the story was kind of building to. And I just have a lot of conflicted feelings. Like J.J. Abrams said, like, I'm going to make a new trilogy, but it's going to be a girl as a hero and two guys of color who are literally opposite sides that kind of come together just because that's a compelling story, good and bad. And then it felt to me like Rian Johnson said, like, what if there aren't heroes? Yeah. And that was like, I respect the modern look at Star Wars that is. I also know that I watched those movies when I was a kid, and like I felt like I could be Luke, and I do think that's what George.
Well, that's making. So you're Broom Boy. You must love that.
Broom Boy. Well, no. Well, what's funny about it is, you know, my daughter, the Miyagi thing, you know, the teaching her certain things without. You know, I make sure that she has no filter. Like, she doesn't understand. To her, if you were to tell her, oh man, everybody hated BVS when it came out, she'd be like, what the fuck? What? Why?
It's so good.
You're like, what? Yeah, she's like, it's my favorite film. Like, I gotta watch it over and over again. What did they watch? Did they not watch the UE? You know, she'd be questioning it. She'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Because that's what she thinks. But when it came to Star Wars and her, you know, when I first introduced it to her, I introduced it to her machete style in order. You know, like the machete order. And so her first intro was A New Hope, and then Empire Strikes Back, and then of course Clone Wars, and then or not Clone Wars, sorry, Attack of the Clones, and then Revenge of the Sith. Which, dude, Revenge of the Sith, as more time goes on, fuck, I love that.
Oh, no, that's the best
episode 3.
Yeah.
And after all of them, so after Rise of Skywalker, you know, and we had done a rewatch before Rise of Skywalker, so it was all fresh again. I asked her, I said, so tell me, you know, what's your favorite Star Wars? Let's go, kid. I'm thinking she's gonna say obviously one of the newer ones, right? Just because, of course, she's 12 at this point. She goes, honestly, A New Hope. New Hope's the best. And I was like, wow, dude. Wow. You know, like, this kid has seen not only the prequels, and she loved Clone Wars. Don't get me wrong. She still was like, A New Hope. You know, that's the one. And for me, it was kind of like a test. Like I went, dude, that's probably why all these fans that are like old school fans, why they fell in love with A New Hope, dude. I mean, it was just so different. You know?
Yeah. The big thing that I could have an hours long podcast about Star Wars, but the thing that I always come back to is, if you said to someone like, "Who's the villain of Star Wars?" they would say Darth Vader. But if you watch the movie, like Luke and Darth Vader don't even know who each other are. Like Darth Vader is not the villain of that movie. He's not even really providing conflict to Luke. Luke has no idea of his existence. The first Star Wars is, and this goes with the George Lucas and Joseph Campbell stuff, like Luke's conflict is believing that he can be an instrument of some cosmic fate. Like, Luke, you turn off your targeting computer. You know, like the whole thing is trust is like, I have to trust that I can be the key. And that's what that story is. And I feel like that's like, because that could be me, because I don't believe that I can be the key either. And that then it became Vader and it became the Empire versus Rebels. But I felt like, I think that's why The Force Awakens resonated with me so much, is because the plot of that movie is almost following Rey. And she's like, I'm not important. Like, no way. This is all crazy coincidence that this happens, until finally the single most powerful moment in Star Wars history for me, when Kylo reaches for the saber and it flies to Rey's hand. And then you get that Skywalker theme, and it's like, she doesn't even realize that this is her story. And that was, then everything that happens after that is gravy. But that's the thing, is then when J.J. Abrams said, like, I don't think people come to these movies to be told that something doesn't matter. That's like, oh, right. This is supposed to be fantasy. You know, this is like, this is supposed to be the impossible entering your life, you know? And that's like, I feel like in all of the books that I read, I loved that so much. And the Republic Commando novels I read so much. Those stories are about like people claiming their destiny.
Well, Dyce, it's kind of like it's like the, I forget his name, but the Rogue Squadron books, and you get the one random pilot who, you know, Stackpole makes a Jedi, and like his story is so amazing, because it's like you take a random side character from the Rogue Squadron novels and then make him, he gets his own book in iJedi.
And then you read enough of the new Jedi Order to know that like the stuff that he was like, what the like?
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I'm like, if you love Last Jedi, that's awesome. Like I
hated the fucking jokes. I liked it in the sense that it felt like it was Rian Johnson trying to adapt the Dark Knight Returns on The Last Jedi. That's what I felt like.
Yeah,
I felt like it was that. But
and that's cool if you dig it, but like when they're
jokes,
when Luke does this, don't act shocked that I don't like it. Don't give me a break.
I know. Yeah, that scene was beautiful, and it's like, oh, you had to really do the whole
thing. And that's the thing, is like, if you like that, cool. The thing that really, I think,
so wink
out of it was when people were like, oh, so it's like some Chosen One thing. I'm a Star Wars fan. I don't just want a Chosen One story. And I was sitting there going, I mean, again, like Steven said, maybe this story isn't for you.
Right, but I mean, The Force Awakens made it look like we were going to have another Chosen One. So what the fuck were we supposed to think?
Yeah, I think at the same time, I was the most excited about The Mandalorian, because that first trailer was like, we're going to have a story disconnected from everything with a badass, and it's a Western. It's not going to be any of that, like, bringing in existing characters like the prequels that you all hated. That you all absolutely
That's fucking hilarious, dude.
And now I'm watching this, and I'm just like, I mean, like, Coco's cool, but like, Clone Wars was really get into her story, and now you've. Is this what all those people felt like when you were like, throw the cannon out? And I was like, that doesn't seem like a big deal. Now I'm like, no, there's no reason this couldn't have been Ashley. You bring Ashley back for this.
Which I got to ask you guys, because I don't know if you guys would know, but was there a reason? Because I was looking at her up. I mean, the only thing I could think of is that she's 5'2", and Rosario Dawson's 5'7".
you guys talking about it made it make sense to me where they said that this is for a show because
she's
from
not
this
she's not an
episode-
actress.
I was
Right,
watching
that's what I was
this
saying.
episode and I was like, Ashley Eckstein could have done this. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing here really that would be beyond her, an actor of her commitment. So, but if it is a solo show, then you're going to want a name
Yeah.
for sure.
That's very true. But I mean, like, has she done like actual live acting?
I don't think she has.
work that I know of.
That's the whole thing that I thought about. It was like she was never really like a live
Yeah,
action.
but Bo-Katan. I mean, dude, she was.
And
perfect
also,
for that
like,
role.
well, yeah, but she's a live action actor who did a voice
Right.
role.
I know.
Hmm.
Right, even Sam Witwer is a live action actor. I don't know where he even started. Dice, this
Battlestar Galactica,
you'd be more
probably.
familiar with.
Yeah,
but
there was Battlestar Galactica, but there was also he did that Sci-Fi Channel. No, that was he did the Being Human. He was the vampire in that
but-
North
Oh,
American remake of Being.
but the point is, he's got live action, like a very physical actor to fit person.
Oh,
and
before all
can
that,
do
he was also
stunts and stuff.
Doomsday in season 8 of Smallville.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like ambulance guy.
I
And
believe
so-
he was Darth
Getting-
Starkiller.
Yeah,
Thank you.
in
Starkiller.
Force Unleashed, yes.
Wow.
He
So
used his likeness.
I don't know enough of his acting ability, but I do know that her Ahsoka voice. I don't think Dice can. I know that you have an opinion on this. Animated characters don't always match up with live action versions. Her voice is so cartoon, and you don't notice it because it's in a cartoon. Bring it into live action, she can't behave or talk, and so either you've got Ashley Eckstein, and it's like, why is she not being the same in live action, or she is being the same, and it's like, whoa, that doesn't match, that doesn't fit this tone.
I'll give credit to Rosario Dawson for her first lines in the episode. I thought, oh, she's talking like Ahsoka does. Like that, just the her like elocution that she was using was like, that's a nice touch because she has her
I
own
thought
way
she
of
did
talking.
I thought she was totally, completely believable as an old. Like this is an age that we haven't really emote much.
Well,
she's supposed to be much older than she was.
Well, I was going to say, my daughter, she after watching Clone Wars, she became a Ahsoka Tano fan, like fucking diehard. I mean, so much. I bought her the book.
She's one of the best characters in the.
Yeah, and she read it. She's a fucking diehard fan. And so when I told her, the voice actor
Lost.
There's a
the stream.
She was kind of worried. She was like, and then what happened? Well, whenever like we watched it, and I mean, there was not a chance. There was not a time where Avery was like, "What's going on? Like, why?" She was like, "It was like this is Ahsoka." It was Ahsoka. There was no, "Oh, well, why is she acting differently, or why does her voice sound different, or any of that?" Because she knew it was different, but she was just mesmerized. Yeah. So I was like, that's all I cared about, was that there was no disconnect of, oh, I know that this is different. You know what I mean?
The only thing that I'd say was like drastically different, and this isn't even on Rosario because this is probably all stunt work, is that she didn't, her movement wasn't nearly as like cat-like.
Right. Well,
she was way more like traditional Jedi, and like her Shoto or her Soto saber and stuff was not like, she's normally way more like down, like her knees are like like up at her shoulders.
Yeah. And she also said, like, why doesn't her head, why does she have her, the whatever they are, the Togruta, like
the
spines or whatever.
Yeah.
She was like, why aren't they, taller? And I go, sweetheart, you got to think of it as a practical thing. Think about moving with that. Like in real life, I'm sure that it was difficult for, to have it on.
Well,
So I was
especially
like,
because
probably
the
shorten
only
it.
way to have that fastened is like with the headband that hides the seam between her head. And so like, let's imagine moving and all of a sudden you've got like this wobble on the headpiece.
Yeah. I told her that. She was like,
I bet in a movie they would just like mocap that.
Oh yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
But but we're talking like it's Mando. Once you know where to look, you start to be like, oh, there's the $10 TV budget standing up against the $150 million movie budget. But when you don't know where to look to spot those seams, it's like, whoa, it's amazing what they get out of this. And then every once in a while, you're like, oh, clearly they're in a dome because these people are all huddled together, and then there's just like this vast space of scenery.
It also doesn't help that for anyone who is not on this call or in chat has not seen the final episodes of the Clone Wars, that is like some of the best Star Wars action.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Constructed, and Ahsoka is in the center of it.
The drop to Mandalore is one of the most
down the ship, and it's like zooming in through the rubble as she's trying to catch up with the ship. That's just that's flawless. Like that stuff is awesome. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of like any person who needs to bring Ahsoka back, it needs to be a story that will live up to it. And I guess Dave Filoni basically he just gets to at this point. No one to criticize him.
Gotta be him.
Yeah,
we gotta remember too is we still have an Obi-Wan series that's going to be coming about, and I wouldn't be surprised if she shows up in that as well.
I think there'd be a major missed opportunity if they don't have hardcore Clone Wars flashbacks with Hayden Christensen and
it's totally gonna happen. It's totally gonna happen. There's no way that
they get to do the Clone Wars right, I guess, basically, where retcon this is how the Clone Wars actually happened in live action, and do live act I don't know if they would redo animated scenes, but do stuff that is we know from canon, but it's with the live action actors, just because that aesthetic is so, I don't know, that'd be such a missed opportunity to not.
Oh, they're gonna totally.
Well, dude, I mean, just think about my daughter. She saw this episode, and her first initial thought was, "I need to watch the Clone Wars again."
Yeah, exactly.
I guarantee you, a lot of people went through that. So imagine, having the Clone Wars as live action.
I mean, that the 30 seconds of the Clone Wars we got in the finale or the penultimate episode of Mando season 1, where there's the super battle droids came in, and I was like, that is what super battle droids should look like in live action.
Yeah.
And then the Mandos came in, and I was like, whoa, where is this live action? Where is this Clone Wars show?
Right.
That's also a prime opportunity to say to anyone out there who sees this, if I could read one series of novels over again, or give a series of novels to a child, it would be the Republic Commando novels following a squad of clones who were allowed to become different people. It's Karen Travis, who was in the Royal Marines, and she wrote the Gears of War novels, which were also dope.
Oh, sweet.
But the Republic Commando is following these troopers as they want to make a break out of the I guess that would be Republic at that point, to go back to Mandalore and start their own life. And one of them falls in love with a Jedi general, and they have a baby. One of the in those books, Jango Fett was an asshole that everybody hates. All of the other people that came in were like, this is so messed up, we'll train these people to be actual Mandalorians. But God, Jango Fett is just a dirtbag.
That's what's funny. In new canon, they're like, he's not a Mandalorian.
Yep, yeah. And then on top of that is that it's the absolute coolest thing that I have seen in Star Wars canon, which is a Jedi master who decides that the Republic is full of shit, and he doesn't want to fight in a war while claiming to be some altruistic group. So he just leaves and goes with them and becomes a Mandalorian. So
oh, wow.
He is just a Mandalorian with everyone else. But when he takes the helmet off, some people recognize oh shit, you use the Force, but you don't talk about it because you wanted to become a part of this culture. Maybe that explains why I was on the fence about the Mandalorian to begin with, because they threw all of that out and we're they never take their helmets off. And I'm how does it even, how do you barf? What?
How do you eat? How do you cough? Yeah.
What if you drink? How do you drink? How do you eat?
Straw.
They kind of showed that in the last episode.
But yeah, those Republic Commando novels are dope. And then the last one, 2 people had to stay behind when the Empire took over, when the whole Coruscant thing happened, and they were in the 501st, Vader's Legion. Awesome story. I think there's probably 5 or 6 novels, Republic Commando. I'm sure there's going to be people in the comments that know what I'm talking about. But if you have kids that you want to get reading, I know they're legends now, but I read that when I was probably 15, 16, and they were wicked.
Wow. See, my daughter's she's dark side, dude. I got her the rule of 2. So yeah, she's
get her that
she's yeah, give me some Darth Xana shit.
Yeah,
was
the
like, okay.
zombie was that
Yeah.
the Dead Legion or whatever? Yeah, the zombie troopers.
Does she like Asajj?
She's like indifferent. Like she's like, like when she saw her today, like re-seeing her, it was all right. Like she loved Ahsoka, so
if she likes the Clone Wars and she likes dark side stuff, have her read Dark Disciple. It's has she read that?
Well, no, isn't that part of the rule of two, like with Bane?
No. Dark Disciple is it was a Clone Wars
one
arc.
that's a disciple one?
Scott.
That sounds familiar, but Dark Disciple is a newer book that it was taken from a Clone Wars arc that was actually written by Katie Lucas, Lucas's daughter originally. But after the show was canceled, they were like, okay, we've got all these scripts and like partially developed episodes we can't do anything with. And so it is like a whole Asajj arc with what's his name?
Dooku?
The the Jedi with the yellow band on his face, and he's got the memory when he touches objects. He's super cool.
He's super.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
But he's in the background on Tatooine. But and he's in the Narshada episodes. Of Clone Wars.
He has dreads.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's him. Tris are like bounty hunters.
Yeah. I'm gonna mention it in the.
No, not Kit Fisto.
Quinlan Voss.
Quinlan Voss. There we go.
There you go. Got it.
And he's way cooler in the book than he is in the show even. But it's an arc about Asajj that was taken from the show, and it's canon, and it ties into all this stuff. Lots of dark side stuff, Night Sister stuff. It kind of explains how the Night Sister's power is different than the Force, and really, really, it sounds like the type of thing that'd be right up her alley. Like, I'd highly recommend. It's one of my favorite. It's not like the best written. There's some weird, the romance stuff in it like doesn't 100% click for me, but it's like the content that it tackles and the things that it does with characters is like very unique. I think because it's a relic of like Lucas Star Wars that like Disney is like, that's too controversial. Like we don't dabble with that stuff. And it's really cool. And I wish that they had been able to make it into the Clone Wars episodes, but I enjoyed it as a book though.
Okay. Let's go deviate from the Star Wars talk. We got a Patreon question I wanted to get to, a video question from Mr. Neil again, who has a very, I actually want to like go to his house and like play his video games that is in his background, but this is a question for all of us right here. So here we go.
Hey, what's going on, Dave? How you doing, Vodka Stream? So, here's a fun one for you guys. If you had the ability to travel through the multiverse and you had that power, where would you want to live? And it could be TV, movie, or animated worlds. Doesn't matter. And why? Cheers.
I'm telling you, that guy has like an arcade in his like man cave or whatever the hell.
That's
jealous. Pretty cool. Swenson, you go first.
Oh my god, that's a hard one. Like,
yeah, which universe would you want to live in when it came to the multiverse?
Because every world you live with superheroes, you could potentially just die. It's so dangerous.
Yeah. What a dark way of view, man.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, well, have you watched, The Boys?
Yeah, right.
Be on the street, and this flash dude just
stepped right in front of me.
Yeah. Just pull up.
There's 2 steps off the curb, Garza.
I guess I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay. I mean, personally, when it comes to me, I'd live in the Batman animated series world, man. When it's like new age versus like a little bit, but it's also old too. Like the way that they made that world. I mean, especially when you put it up against like when they did the Superman animated series. Metropolis was so like futuristic and oh, look at that. But Gotham was like, yeah, it's got new technology, but yet, look at the cars they're driving. They're from the fucking 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
And stuff like
well,
that.
my favorite thing I learned about that show was that the animation that they drew everything on a black background instead of on a and then the second I learned that, I was like, that is what makes that show so like pop.
Yeah, it looks good. What about you, Scott?
You go back and you see that the dust is still on like the negatives, and they used a full orchestra for every episode.
Or like, I love as an adult watching it and being like, wait, that's real rain. Like there's just real rain on top of this. Like what?
Yeah, that's the world I live in. It's the Batman the animated series universe. Scott?
Oh man, I'd probably live in some sort of Elseworlds, like the golden age. Like I want to live in like the 40s, like the 40s, like if I like old school, like JSA. And I want to live there because that's the music that I like. That's like that. Those are the movies. Like give me any kind of story that takes place like in the 40s, 50s, sort of noir. Let me be in a trench coat and a fedora and be in black and I want to be in black and white. Like that's what I want to do.
There it is.
Be voiced by Nicolas Cage.
What'd you say?
Be voiced by Nicolas Cage.
like Spider Noir. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't understand this.
What about you, Dice? Where would you want to live in the multiverse?
I'd probably be in the one where all the genders were flipped. Because like I can feel a lot of things about Batman and Superman and Aquaman and stuff. But there are some things that I can't feel that I would be interested to try. I feel like that would be a very different thing if I was like, that Aquawoman, like, yes, please.
Yes.
That would just be a very different thing that I would think of. Also, especially now because I'm thinking, like, what would the female version of Jason Momoa be?
Oh, my
God. That would be like a powerful woman.
Can only imagine. Oof. Man, something to think about later. Garza, what about you?
You know what? I was like trying to think about it. I'm like, where the fuck would I go? like, I and the only thing I can really think of is I would think of like what would benefit me, right? I mean, that would be the most, important question. And so I'm like, the only place that I could think of that would be like where I could potentially be a superhero in my head was like Kingdom Come, like that area, because they have like fucking a crazy amount of superheroes like everywhere. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm pretty sure I'd just be okay with Kingdom Come.
Okay. I mean, what about you, Colbert?
Be a superhero.
I don't know. This is like this kind of hypothetical question is my kryptonite.
Yeah.
Is like I always think of the what's the Jay and Silent Bob or no the Clerks short about the flying car, I think short. You know what I'm talking about? Where they're arguing in traffic about what would you do for a flying car.
Yeah.
That's me when any question like this, and so it's like I don't know. I mean, and like my answer is so different based on like what do I think is the coolest place to be versus like to visit versus like to live or like just to experience. You know, like Chris said, like these places are dangerous.
Yeah.
Like these stories are all like just civilians are getting like buildings dropped on them, like just for as a part of your daily life. And so if you're there, like what? So you get to be a superhero? Oh, great! So like I get to be Superman. I don't want that. Like, I don't want to be Superman. I like him as like a literary device. I don't want to be him. I don't want to be Batman. Who wants to be Batman? Batman's cool. It'd be cool to like play Batman in a movie. I don't want to be Batman.
Dude, I want to go through the shit he goes through. Like, fuck that, dude. No.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, I hate getting out of bed in the morning. Like, forget about being like, oh, got to go downtown. And
no, I'm talking about his experience and shit. Like, dude, look at he lost his parents. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I'm not trying to deal with that shit.
So I don't know. I'm like, that's why I'm like wish fulfillment superheroes and stuff like just doesn't necessarily resonate as much with me, like for that reason, where it's like I don't know what like the point is almost. So like I don't know. Like there's a bunch of different stuff that it would be like cool. Like I think what Scott said, like there's like the more stylized, like maybe more classic.
I think you'd rather be an Injustice, wouldn't you?
Or like I'd love to be in something drawn by Oh geez, why am I blanking on his name? Who drew Long Halloween and
Tim Sale.
Yeah, Sale. Thank you. I'd love to be in something like drawn by Tim Sale, or like the Red Sun is like a really cool aesthetic.
Dave Johnson.
I was thinking the Red Sun too, but I was like, yeah, but it's
like
Soviet
to
Russia.
live in that.
I can do this. I can do this
Well, no,
all day. Come on.
I'd live in like the United States version of the, like that would be cool. Like
That's not a fucking story, okay, Steven?
As like
You're
as
changing
like,
it. That's not Red Sun. God damn it.
but I said what universe, not like what story would you live out?
Oh, okay.
And so like so that'd all be cool. But like I wouldn't want to like move there and be like, hey, can I like experience? Can I visit that for a day, or is there a virtual reality version of that I can experience? Yeah, that sounds cool.
I actually, if you think about it, I would love to be like in the Legion of Superheroes, like that time, like the 31st century. Like seeing the future.
Yeah,
I think that would
Kingdom Come, man.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden having superpowers, and you're like, wait, Superman's still alive? Fuck.
I'd be like, I'm just thinking like, be Batman. Yeah, I don't want to get out of bed. Like just like.
Yeah.
All right, we got now we don't have a video question, but we have one that's posted by Will Morris. He said, "This is the question for the panel. We know Lois is this is right up your alley, Garza. We know Lois is murdered by Darkseid in one timeline, but in another, where Bruce sacrifices himself, Lois lives, and she and Clark have a child. There is no confirmation that Martian Manhunter makes it to the Nightmare timeline. So when Barry goes back in time to reset the timeline, would it be Martian Manhunter that takes the place of Lois and sacrifices himself so Lois lives? Or does the interaction never happen in the new timeline?" Wow, that just...
I always just assumed it was basically Final Crisis, where once that portal opens, Bruce jumps through and shoots Darkseid in the face with a time travel bullet. Pulls a "I believe you,"
Yeah.
And it gets vaporized himself in the process. But I don't know. That's just because I somehow early on, for a variety of reasons, the fact that Batman dies and all that, really much Darkseid coming with the anti-life. It's all very Final Crisis to me.
It does make you wonder if there's going to be something similar to that happens. That's how Batman goes out. I mean, we know that he sacrifices, but is it going to incorporate the Nightmare timeline and time travel? Is something going to happen with all that? I mean, shit. I just want to see that scene of Cavill carrying like the dead body of fucking Ben Affleck, just fucking, just carrying him, like how it was in like Final Crisis. Obviously, we know like what was happening there, but I mean, just to have like a scene like that. I mean, in the vein of like how when Superman died in BVS, and that that was such a beautiful fucking scene. Imagine Snyder doing something like that with Batman dying, and then you have Superman just carrying him out of whatever the fuck, Oh my god. I'm like at 37% right now. What?
That question reminds me of the Flash, that season where Iris gets replaced prior to Savitar killing in a way, because anybody watch the CW Flash?
It's been a bit.
Like Savitar kills.
That arc was the arc that killed me. I didn't finish it.
Oh, you didn't finish that arc? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Scott, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
That just reminds me of that. Just that question.
I don't know. I feel like Zach, when he was asked about, if he was going to introduce a Flashpoint, and he was like, no, something better. I feel like that's the same thing with how Batman would die. Like, he's in his head, he's already got some fucking crazy idea. Yeah, that we would just be like, holy shit. Like, it's not your traditional how he dies, but in a way it is. But also it's still like logical. Like, Batman can only know that that's going to happen because, Flash arrived on time at this point. And you know what I mean? Like, it's so weird how it's all lined up and like kind of symmetrical with, well, we're in this position right now because Flash showed up too soon. So now instead of you sending, Flash in that time, you were going to send him on this time. And now we're seeing that Batman going, the Flash arrived on time. So now I understand what you're talking about. And,
it's going to be,
it's just,
yeah. I mean, like just thinking about it, it's like, it's going to give you a fucking brain cramp.
Yeah.
I mean, to like think about all this stuff and like, I'm sure they have whiteboards on top of whiteboards, just going like how this fucking shit works,
Right.
Well,
and this isn't necessarily the way that it's going to turn out now also. So this is all in a hypothetical earlier.
Yes.
Well, I guess
change.
maybe we shouldn't even say, because on Chris's show, he legitimately said the version of the movie is the version we shot in 2016, which he confirmed previously did not have the Darkseid killing Lois in it. Yeah. So now that doesn't mean that that's no longer a part of the story. It just means that he rewrote it in such a way that it doesn't happen here. I don't know if that means he replaced it or if he kicked the can down the road, and that could still be a thing that happens later. But it does not happen in this as originally planned.
But it's gotta happen though. I mean, like
it's gotta happen.
Yeah, when you see when Superman says like, "Hey, she was my world, and you took her from me," we got to see what that's about. I mean, to me,
well, sure, but there are other ways to do that though without. I mean, like there are other ways that happens in the comics already. Literally, I mean, with
we got Joker,
her dying in Injustice. So. They did add Joker to the movie. I really doubt they added Leto to the movie for the sake of killing Lois.
Yeah, but that'd be fucking crazy.
Or not what? I said that Lois. Last time, didn't I?
Yeah, we talked about it too, though. It's like Jesus Christ. I mean, it's only a matter. I mean, he's had, like I said, he's had 3 years to fucking think of other shit. I mean, he even talked about like when it came to the Leto stuff, it was like he wasn't part of the initial shoot. And then all of a sudden he had this idea that he's like, should I do it? And then he even like looked at Deborah. Should I call him? And he did. And then Leto was like, let's do it. But then it's like, we hear that it's not even that much extra. It's like 5-6 minutes.
Well, and here's my stance on kind of the whole thing too, is as someone who was like always a firm supporter of the, like, if Darkseid killing Lois was the original core scary idea that he had, I'm fully in support of him doing that. However, he gets $70 million in several weeks of reshoots and is told, go make this movie the way you want to make it. And he, instead of changing that, which according to him, he said, we shot most of it, but the thing we didn't shoot was this. And so he's given this money and given the opportunity to reshoot stuff. And if he doesn't take that opportunity, to me, that says he has evaluated the story and prefers this one, or maybe it was just changed too drastically to be able to change it back. But like he said, they shot most of it. So to me, what that reads as,
maybe he's hoping that we literally forget about that admission during the Snyder Con, and he's going, if I just don't talk about it, maybe they'll be surprised if it happens.
Yeah, actually, there is a moment of like he was so open for 2 years, 3 years about kind of stuff that's in here that's kind of spoilery. There's a moment now where it's like fans are so like, but he wouldn't lie to us, and it's like, oh.
I always find that funny. It's like, hey, he would never lie. It's like, no, it's like it's not exactly lying. It's just he doesn't want to spoil it for you guys.
Yeah,
realize that. And I mean, I always hate it when like people like go crazy, like, oh, you're saying Zach lied. I'm like, that's not what it is. It's like he's.
Well, and I know this is going to be crazy just because it's insane to think of, but with this whole Green Lantern situation, right? I mean, if you were to sit there and if we watch Zack Snyder's Justice League and let's say it's the 4th episode and all of a sudden we see, and this is going to sound fucking crazy, but we see Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern show up when all of us, we've all been in the know and go, nah, he said it didn't happen. It couldn't work. And he fucking shows up on that 4th episode. We're gonna fucking lose our minds, right? And
well, because if it happens, and I think that's the thing that was lost very much in conversation. If that ever happened, we're not talking about like a Ryan Reynolds subplot. We're talking about the end of the movie. Yeah. It's like, oh, hey, what's up? I'm going to be in Justice League 2. That's all this cameo ever was from when they shot half of it in 2016. Yeah. That's all it ever was. And so there is always the possibility that could show up until like 2 weeks before the movie comes out. And if they're going to keep something under wraps, it's the button scene that sets up Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern in Justice League 2. I realize as I say that it makes me sound like I'm still saying it's going to happen. That's not my point. My point is just to say that like there are so many things here that are flexible and could change, and reasons to hide or distort what's going on in order to preserve secrets.
I've made that point too. Where it's like, hey, you know what? We still got 4 months. Still, this if March, if it's not even that, March, it's just they could put it in a week ahead and be like, hey, let's just inject this little Green Lantern.
Well, there's no, but it's and none of us are really like. There's all this talk about like scoopers and whatnot. None of us like. The only reason this has ever been something that we do is because it had value to the narrative of, does the Snyder Cut exist? Was it any good? At this point, something like that's a spoiler. I don't need to like be right about that. Like, I'm not trying to like have my name, maybe Garza is, but like, that's
fucking hard fact.
That's not like something that we need out there. And like, I definitely, if that's going to happen, I don't want it to be spoiled. So,
well, if it happens, great. I'm gonna still continue doing it. Everything I fucking do day to day. Like, it's not gonna. If it doesn't happen, same fucking thing. Like, it's not like all of a sudden it doesn't happen and I'm gonna go into hiding and I'm like, fuck, you guys are never gonna see me. Like, fuck no, I don't give a shit.
No.
But this is a thing that he didn't want Joker getting out. Okay, so just imagine had us not known about Joker getting out and us seeing Joker in the Justice League, we would have been like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So imagine him going, all right, well, fuck this. I'm not going to let this shit happen. Hey, Green Lantern, hey, it's, whatever he said, it's not happening. Nobody's in it. I didn't get it. I'm going to make up a story. It didn't happen. Something, blah, blah, blah. It didn't matter. And now everybody that would have known is going, nah, sorry, he's not in it.
Well,
sorry. And then
also, assuming there's a Justice League 2 that introduces a Green Lantern, if you can't get, like, you're not going to tease that unless you're going to snag the actor that you want now. And so, like, if you can't, if Reynolds was his choice now and he can't lock him down for sure now, like maybe Reynolds needs a guarantee on Justice League 2 happening in order to do it, or whoever else, maybe he approached someone for Jon Stewart, for example, and that didn't work out. You're not gonna be like, well, we'll just do someone else to fill the role. Yeah. No, you're gonna say, you know what, that scene isn't important enough to sacrifice actually casting the person that I want come Justice League 2 and leave that open. Like, why do we have to have a Green Lantern tease when you could say, you know what, let's not sacrifice the chance to get the right casting here for the sake of a tease in this movie. Like, that's the tail wagging the dog at that point.
Everybody got that?
Seriously. I mean, everybody's like, when everybody talks about, like, oh, there's got to be Green Lantern. And I saw people in my mentions going like, I'm going to be disappointed there's no Green Lantern, no modern day. I'm like, we're getting so much more. Stop. I mean, we're going to get a Green Lantern. We're going to get a reference to Green Lantern. It's like,
and I don't know, maybe we're partly responsible for not maybe we're not partially responsible for not making this as clear early on, but like, Green Lantern was always a cameo if it was going to happen at all. And so it's not on the shirt because he's like lined up with the League there in the final shot, same as Martian Manhunter, who also has his logo on the shirt. The logo is on the shirt because he's a member of the League in Zach's universe at some point, and maybe he gets introduced in this movie or maybe he doesn't, but there's no like Sam Benjamin is Green Lantern and he's doesn't have his ring for half the movie and
Wrong!
Like the Green Lantern presence in this is if it happens is incredibly minor, and so like when people say like, oh, there's no Green Lantern at all, that's not them saying like they cut out another character or something. It's just saying like, oh, we were gonna try to fit this in at the end and it didn't work out. That's literally all that means. This is not a compromise. You're not losing anything of. I don't want to say nothing of significance, but you're not losing. Like, if there's no Green Lantern, it's not like, oh, I can't believe that even after the Snyder Cut happens, there's still someone's footage is all on the cutting room floor. It's like that's not what's going on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's a good way to wrap it up right there. We're 3.5 hours in. Yeah, let's just wrap it up on Sam Benjamin not being
I loved your movie fake news. Sam Reynolds,
dude. I was like, at first,
dude, when you said Sam Reynolds, and then you popped up the IMDb page. Dude, I spit out my drink.
I looked up Ryan Benjamin, and there was no Ryan Benjamin. I was like, all right, let's see what Sam Reynolds pulls up. And I was like, because I was trying to figure out, I was like, I got to do a fake movie news about like something where it's like a combination of their names, and there was no Ryan Benjamin, but then there was a Sam Reynolds, and I was like, oh, he's a stunt performer who hasn't been around since 2012.
Oh, that's a real
perfect.
I thought you photoshopped that. Like,
no. That's a real dude. That is a real stunt guy named Sam Reynolds who hasn't been in a fucking movie since 2012. He was like in the Pirates movies. He's been in various stunt, and it was perfect. I was like, cool, I got it. I got my guy that's like got the combination of both their names. I was like, yes, there it is. But it worked out pretty well. But anyways, let's go around the horn. Appreciate you guys, of course, joining the panel. And of course, we've got the featured guest, Mr. Andrew Dyce. As he takes a sip, go ahead and promote yourself, sir.
Yes, you can follow my editing and writing work on screenrant.com. Editing will be harder. And you can also listen to me talk just ridiculous nonsense on Batman v Superman by the Minute, as well as Justice League by the Minute, and the Bachelor podcast, Except These Bros, a real podcast that is real and exists.
It is.
Also, I crushed it in the last week.
Did you?
I'm going to call that out. I don't know if you can clinch a season in 1 week, but if you can, I did it.
Let's go here first, folks. All right, Mr. Stephen Colbert.
Yeah, Dice plugged our podcast, but you can follow my writing and editing as well at screenrant.com. The BVS by the Minute and Justice League by the Minute, like he said. I guess I'll add to that. Check out we have SnyderMinute.com now, where we have both shows are available, so you don't need to worry about like separate streams. It's all under the same house. And we launched our Patreon last week, and we'll have some like the full versions of our interviews and stuff, which people have heard most of, but like there'll be maybe some tidbits that got missed because of there wasn't whatever perfect in the episode will be going up. So a little bit of bonus stuff there, and talking about a lot more stuff that we can do with that.
All right, Mr. Chris Wong Swenson.
Oh, I'm Chris Wong Swenson. You can find me at the Ping Pong Flick Show, and I'm just gonna say I'm another editorial this weekend.
Nice.
And this time it's Ben Affleck Batman, and it's kind of fun actually. My editorials are becoming like actors or actresses who can get a second chance at the role. It's kind of almost like that type of editorial, not necessarily the hype of the movie, but just like we should give these people an opportunity for a second chance. Look how incredibly great it could be personally on that emotional level, I guess.
Yeah, they're good, man. Yeah, good job. And then, of course, Mr. John Aaron Garza.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not even going to promote myself just because I don't need to. But I will say this, motherfuckers, okay? I've talked to Steven, so it hasn't gotten anywhere. So I'm going to ask Dice. When the fuck am I going to get invited to come on to this show? Because I'm doing it politely, and I'm not.
I mean, if you want like a 2-hour BVS by the minute, yeah.
Yeah, because listen, I fucking love beef. Like I wanted to talk. I'll always, every time I listen, I'll send a text to Steven or message. I'm like, hey, did you guys talk about this? And he's like, oh no, I don't think we did. And I'm like, God damn it, dude. How the fuck not didn't you talk about it? So I haven't picked my minute out because that's the thing. I'm gonna pick it out. So I wanted to let you know that I'll be coming on your show.
I can say I think Stephen would approve me saying that plans are in motion.
Ooh, there's words
to address this request, possibly others.
So you've gotten those requested because
the notes have been passed. Yes,
I'm like, hey, what about this minute? What?
Yeah,
we were recorded. I'm like, God damn it.
That has been taken into account in the plans in motion.
That makes me feel so good because
right.
Thank you guys for clarifying that.
And then, of course, last but certainly not least, even though like one time I forgot him one time. Yeah, I did. But Mr. Scott McClellan, go for it. Send us home.
Well, of course, you can find me on Twitter at ScottDC27. You can listen to my podcast, DC Film Squadcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, including our upcoming shows of Squadcast Movies, where we review movies. This weekend, we will be recording a review of the movie Chicago. You can, of course, find us on Vero, Facebook, and at our website, www.squadcastmedia.com.
How did I not know about this? How did I not know about this? Prop 6 squish? How did when is this going live?
What are you trying to do to me, Dice?
No, I'm offended I wasn't a guest on this podcast. I just found out about it.
Apparently.
Oh my God. What am I, Mr. Cellophane?
Yeah, Mr. Cellophane.
Well, you had it coming. You had it coming.
Oh my God, this is awesome. Next song title, please.
I'm so lost.
Well, Chris, all I'm going to say is that we got to go home and all that jazz. So, but we both reach for the gun. So it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so lost.
Yes. Oh, man.
There it is. Oh, man. Making connections right here, you guys. Oh, man. Good stuff. I'm surprised I'm still awake with tryptophan from all the turkey, guys. Man, I'm like fucking falling asleep. Now, I'm good, but I think Andrew Dyce, thank you for being the featured guest. You're welcome in anytime. I'll send you the link. You want to be part of the panel as per usual, and then of course, everybody else here. You guys are awesome. I don't have anything left in the glass, but I am thankful for you guys. Obviously, you guys, we've become friends, and it's great. It's absolutely fantastic. Hopefully we'll be able to do it absolutely in person one of these times, but I'm thankful for you guys and everybody in the live chat. Cheers, guys. We all love you, and as per usual, we have to remember.
And also, I'm excited to watch the Snyder Cut because Joss Whedon sucks.
Yes, he does. All right, guys. Talk to you guys later.